EWBSX, the Cyber Bully. Radio for our guys.
You may even get tired of winning, and you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the ASTROLABE. Gonna try to get my energy up for this one. I've been coughing and dragging my ass around all day, trying to be as useful as I possibly can. But man, I do not like the feeling of being sick. I held off on taking the NyQuil, or not the NyQuil, the DayQuil. I held off on the DayQuil for as long as I possibly could because I don't like the way it makes me feel. It makes me feel kind of like restless legs, kind of jittery, sort of just kind of ugh. It clears things up a little bit, but it just kind of gives me a little boost of energy. I was dragging hard earlier today, but I'm getting in here to do a show and tried to make it a little easier on myself with some low-hanging fruit today. Got the president is Fed posting, and then I listened to some very good podcasts this afternoon. I took the dog for a walk, first time he'd gotten a good walk in a while. Now that we have a backyard that he can go poop in, he's getting a little older, so it's pretty easy to just let him out and poop. But I was away on vacation, or not vacation. I was away from the house on a business trip, and came back, and he hadn't really gotten a real good walk since I got back. So I took him out this afternoon. It wasn't too hot. It's been pretty hot in the middle of the day since I got back. It's like 88, 86, 88, very different from DC. And so I took him out to go for a walk and got a little bit of sun, a little bit of exercise, kind of tried to get the energy up just a little bit. And I listened to, what did I listen to? I listened to Tom Luongo talking to Vince Launchy about an extremely fascinating theory that Vince has stumbled upon. It's kind of he and Tom, sort of as they've been bouncing worldviews off of each other, have come up with a pretty fascinating, pretty fascinating bunch of connections, and perhaps some strong evidence here that there is. People kind of speculated about there being some kind of a grand relationship or arrangement between the United States and Russia and China, sort of like a new three-way deal that, people talked about it like the United States joining BRICS, and it was more like kind of like the United States pulling Russia and China away from BRICS, sort of, and then BRICS just sort of drafts in the wake of the three of them combined. Well, to the detriment of Europe. An ARC is the thing they've been referring to it as: America, Russia, and China. There's some strong there's reasons why the three nations would all, for their own reasons, feel inclined to participate in a sort of grand bargain like this. Not necessarily recognizing each other as allies, but just kind of like an arrangement of priorities where it suits them all to participate in this. And it's kind of like a game of musical chairs where Europe is just the last one left standing. And they're going to be sort of split apart and pulled in different directions. And they're doing everything they possibly can to prevent that from happening. It's very, very fascinating theory here. That this is coming from the financial markets. So essentially, what the thesis, and as best as I can sum it up, the thesis is that so it's been announced now that that China is issuing U.S. dollar denominated debt, and Russia is issuing yuan denominated debt now. They've just started doing this. So you got a chain here. Now we got the rumblings like Judy Shelton's name is starting to come up again, and you get the proposal of this 50-year mortgage. And a 50-year mortgage might kind of correspond to like a 50-year, some sort of 50-year bond, like perhaps like a 50-year gold-backed treasury. So then you create sort of this chain effect here where you've taken the sovereign markets of Russia and China and the United States, you've linked them together with the United States beginning to denominate its debt in a proxy for gold. And then there may be a combination of gold and Bitcoin. And then you have the stablecoin market that is tied in with all of that as well. Mutually assured ascension. Yeah. It's like a positive alignment of priorities. That's a really good term, Ninja Spades. Mutually assured ascension. And what it necessarily means is that Europe is just going to be kind of forced to play the game. And it doesn't mean, Europe is totally and permanently defeated and all of our enemies are banished. It's just this is what the new model of the world is trending toward. That's kind of the thesis here. So, as I was listening to it, I was like, "Holy crap, this is blowing my mind. If there is something really to this, then Scott Bessent is a wizard." And there's some crazy stuff going on. So I listened to that. Then I listened to Tom talking to, I believe his name is Andy Milet. I think his podcast is called like Natural Resource Stocks or something along those lines. I only listen to him when he has Tom on, which I think he's beginning to recognize is what a lot of his audience is. But they always have really good conversations. And Tom just kind of did what Tom does, and he was in particularly spicy form, and really just kind of laid the whole picture out in a very interesting way. And it's super wonky. Like it's getting into the wars between banking factions, and that's kind of what's at the root of all of this. There's undeniable evidence that where do you start with Tom Luongo? I mean, I don't know. Fuck if I know. You just kind of got to jump on board and hold on. just jump on board and just hang on for dear life. That's the best way to get into Tom Luongo. There's basically undeniable evidence that American banking interests and European banking interests are at war with each other, and they're both vying for territory mutually exclusively over the others. So and this doesn't break cleanly into political party lines or even political ideological lines. It is much deeper than that. It's a straight up war over currencies and resources and sovereignty. So it's these factions. You got to kind of understand. Tom's used this analogy, the high table, and you got to understand the players who are at the high table. And like by definition, them being at the high table means they're difficult to see, difficult to access, difficult to fully parse out. And Trust Plantar is dropping a link here. It says start here with Tom. Let me see what it is. What is this one? Pat and Jeff, the World Financial System with Tom Luongo. Oh, this is the other one that just came out recently that I haven't watched yet. Patrick Gunnels, one of my when we were watching the Devolution series, the like elaboration on the QAnon phenomenon. That's Patrick Gunnels was one of those guys. Okay, good. He goes over the thesis for beginners. That's good. That would be a really, really useful one to have. I haven't listened to it yet, but I've got it in the backlog to listen to. So if he's going over the thesis for beginners, that's perfect. Because I don't know that every single thing about the thesis is correct. And even Tom doesn't claim that every single thing about it is correct, but it's definitely directionally accurate. Like the fundamental nature of the thesis is directionally accurate. And then you sort of kind of necessarily have to build narratives upon that. But then kind of once you take something this far out and start building narratives on it and starting to see how the narratives actually work, you realize that that's all that the news is anyways. So if you're like, well, that narrative seems completely implausible to me, that's not an argument against the narrative per se. It's everything that you're buying into is some sort of an elaborate, editorialized narrative on top of the actual facts on the ground. And in many cases, that realizing the nature of narratives that way, and recognizing that's the case and beginning to act in that world gives you the ability to form and craft narratives. This is part of what the Suda wave yesterday was about. I saw Mr. Sue at the end was asking, and I was totally out of steam. Let me get it out of the way here at the start. That's what Mr. Sue was asking about. What was the point of that? And I know that our master propagandist is watching. At least he was a little bit ago. So if I've misread anything, then please do chime in here and correct me. But as I understand it, the thesis is essentially that you create reality by projecting narratives. The truth and the fiction are just two sides of the same thing. There is no such thing as fiction. The stories are true. So when you're doing propaganda, you're telling a story and you are manifesting it into reality. You are willing it to be real by telling it. Yeah, trust plans are. It's impossible to be fully correct. That's why nobody wins 100% of the time in the stock market. Right. These narratives can become self-reinforcing. That's the thing. Nobody knows if any one of them is correct or not. Any of them could be correct at various points in time. This is how human beings organize themselves as a species. This is the abstraction of a story, the creation of a story, and interacting with the story. This is the way we organize ourselves. And you can follow a story, or you can create a story. You can project a story. And if you project that story compellingly enough, people will follow it. And a big thing that makes it compelling is when lots of people are following it. The stories that are the most compelling are the ones that are the most followed. So getting people to follow a story, regardless of the actual perfect alignment with the facts on it, getting people to follow a story is a way to actually have the facts come into alignment with it. Sometimes the story precedes the facts. And then often there'll be a story that precedes the facts, and then there will be a story that replaces the facts later on. So on the front end, you have a story, then the facts happen in pursuit of that story, and then retrospectively, people replace the facts of the story with a new story. So this leads into the other conversation that I listened to today, or it was monologue and conversation. Actually, it was two others. I did a lot of listening today. It was all on 2.5x, so I was blowing through things. So I listened to Nail and Haley on Tucker Carlson, which was Tucker Carlson monologuing and then talking to Nail and Haley, which was very interesting. Got to get some bone broth here. My wife makes phenomenal bone broth. Apologies to all of my fasting brothers. I'm trying to keep myself hydrated, trying to get some sustenance in me, and the bone broth is for those reasons. So, and my wife makes tremendous bone broth. It's very good. This is why I was a little late. I was maybe 6 or 8 minutes later than I wanted to be. And it was because I was pouring myself some bone broth, and she has it in mason jars in the fridge. Yeah, it was an old pickle jar is what she has it in. And apparently the lid doesn't fully secure on it because I shook it to try to break up the fat layer on the top of it. I shook it, and it just went and just splattered all over the counter and the floor and everything else. So, oh no. Yeah, so I literally Earl Sinclaired at the end of My Tears Are Becoming a Sea in the pre-show. Covered myself in bone broth, and so I had to like clean it up around the floor and everything. But yeah, so I'm drinking the bone broth to help with the throat, because I get these coughing fits that just they become self-reinforcing. They escalate themselves, and it feels like I'm gonna have a fucking aneurysm. Yes, we do need an Earl Sinclair emoji. I saw you guys talking about that. Let me make note of it. Earl Sinclair with a MAGA hat. That's got to go in the emotes. Earl Sinclair with MAGA hat emote. All right. Put it in the to-do list. This is funny how when I'm looking at my extra monitor, I look like I'm looking up at the ceiling, but it's because I've got the polarized sunglasses, so I'm looking out of the bottom of the lenses to see what I'm typing on up here. If I was just looking at them straight, it would just be right here. What's up, T-Con? Good to see you, man. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope things are going well. Can I skip the bone process and just swallow some chicken bones? You can do whatever you want, man. I just know that if I was to try to swallow chicken bones right now, that probably wouldn't help out with the whole, like, throat thing. So I'm going to stick with the bone broth. It combines very interestingly with a... What flavor is this? Peppermint Rogue. Peppermint Rogue and bone broth. It's a very interesting conversation. Okay. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, so Nayland Haley... Sieg Halen with Nayland, as they say. Very, very good conversation. He was the bone broth. The bone broth. The bone broth. Bone broth. Don't make me laugh tonight. Oh, it's gonna. You're running down the health meter on my throat if you make me laugh. Oh yeah, Slutty Milk. Nayland Haley is the whitest Indian I've ever seen. He was great. It was great, and it was very interesting hearing Tucker monologue at the beginning and be like, you know, he titles it something about Nick Fuentes, and then he just goes into it and is just like, this is why young men have a right to feel the way that they do. And yeah, you shouldn't be some sort of like vile bigot, anti-Semite, just like hating someone simply because of their race or ethnicity, being hostile and violent toward them. Yeah, obviously, these things are obviously true. Thank you for the kindergarten lesson. Clearly, yes, these are obviously true. But when you've been that way, when you've been hostile and violent and directly, pointedly bigoted at young men, white young men, straight white Christian young men, for what actually is decades. I remember growing up as a straight white Christian young man, and at that time, I was what hostility I felt, or what disjunction I felt from the rest of the culture, was that I was Christian. And a little bit that I was a man. The longhouse was there. And then I started feeling the whiteness. And then it got to straightness. So now it's like, okay, you're literally just targeting one single particular class. There's no more plausible deniability here. You are just straight up hostile to one particular class. And that's straight, young, white, Christian men. So when you build your entire society around this for a few decades and you completely disenfranchise them, then you think it's going to be compelling when you turn around and go, but you're Nazis, you can't talk about Nazis. How dare you? Haven't you read a history book? Yeah, I went in debt to read history books, and I don't have anything to show for it. Because everyone in my life told me. And I'm not mad at them for telling me to do that. I'm mad at them for I'm mad at the fact that there was people who conditioned them to believe that. And to tell me that. Because they told me that in full good faith. That this was the key to success. And it could have been. It was my own shortcomings that led to it not being a key to success for me. I'm the one who made bad decisions and compounded an already bad situation to land myself where I am. But I can still acknowledge the fact that the entire system, particularly for straight, young, white Christian men, is fucked. And people who acknowledge that and speak to that are going to get their attention, no matter what. For a long time, people haven't been allowed to. First, it was like people kind of didn't want to, and then it was kind of like you shouldn't, and then it was like people aren't allowed to. So that's going to rubber band effect back. Like that's you have just Streisand affected it. And now Tucker is going out of his way to go above and beyond, to just plow right through that. And you got to realize who Tucker is talking to. Tucker is talking to, like, he had an ad today. What were the ads that I heard on that episode? One was for direct-to-consumer hearing aids. Direct-to-consumer hearing aids. Another one was for sporting shirts. Shirts for sportsmen, hunters, and fishermen. That's who Tucker's audience is. His audience is not us. When he's sitting there and he's running through his monologues and he's looking into the camera, he may be talking about us, but he is not talking to us. So that's his. I guarantee you that Tucker Carlson's operation has some very sophisticated audience targeting, given the people that he's working with, as read in the article about Chris Buskirk. Actually, it may not be sophisticated. That's probably too strong. I can't assume that it's sophisticated. But I can assume that they are going out of their way to very intentionally speak to a specific audience, and they're using data to do that. Whether they're doing that well or not, I think they're doing it well. But whether or not they're doing it well may be another question, how sophisticated it is. But either way, they are targeting a specific set of demographics with a clear, intentional message. And Tucker's very closely aligned with J.D. Vance for a lot of reasons. I'm pretty close to I'm pretty close to saying I was wrong in my prediction about 2028, the direction it was going to go. Because my base assumption was that it was going to be the Democrats that completely split apart. But I think it's going to be the Republican Party. The Republican primary is going to be far more compelling than the Democrat primary, because it is going to be a fucking brawl. It is going to be an all-out brawl because it is the election.
Welcome to the Gulag. If you survive, you earn your freedom.
Thank you for the gifted subs. Oh, there's a whole bunch of them coming in. I just saw that. Thank you for the gifted subs from Anonymous, Forever Bulk, Mickey Pack 58, 19 Lucineral 85, something along those lines. Scotty X32 and Kingless Kingdom. I recognize a couple of those names, not the others. Welcome, more lurkers. I also should shout out, this happened during the pre-show, Barndon gifted a sub to Florida Girl. And this was another one of these where she was like, man, I'd love to have a sub. And then Barndon gifted one, and she got it directly. And I think it's because there weren't very many people in here, and basically everyone who was in here was already subscribed. So she may have been the only person in here who was not on an active subscription. But having that happen twice in a row, there's something interesting about that. And then Dave Johnson, Mr. Gave Johnson, showed up. Bobby Ballbags, Fenris Unbound, Karate Man, Unzuckwittable, And another name I don't recognize, also with gifted subs. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. Dave Johnson.
You know, Dave Johnson is the gayest person to ever walk this green earth.
So true, so true. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you, man. I don't know if you're still listening or not. I know it's late. It's late for your old bones. But also, please do remember to remember to forget to tip your streamer. Remember to tip your streamer. The link is pinned in the on the Kick chat right now. And if you're listening to this later on, then you can send a tip. You can go to tips.kingpilled.com, or you can go to Kingpilled on Venmo or Cash App, or I actually have the tips turned on X as well. If you go to @Kingpilled on X and you look at my profile, pretty soon you'll see that I'm based in the United States, and you'll also there's a tip function there as well. So yeah, my birthday is 2 weeks from now. That's true. Yep, 37. I will no longer have a stone cold claim to being in my mid 30s. It's getting much more late 30s. So yeah, I've got 2 weeks left. 2 weeks left to enjoy my childhood. Yeah, so if you're listening later on, then you can also support that way. Or there's Buy Me a Coffee, buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled. And please do leave a 5-star rating and review on the podcatchers, because what I realized is I was thinking my subscription to listener ratio is just completely insane. This is how it was on YouTube. Like, the size of my sub count versus the number of live viewers and viewers I was getting on every video was like 20 times the normal numbers. I have a very, very incredibly loyal, engaged audience. But then I don't talk to anyone else. My entire audience is extremely loyal and engaged. So, and this is because I'm just very bad at promoting myself. I know lots about how to do promoting and stuff, but I'm very bad at promoting myself and making it easy for myself to be promoted. So, there's things coming down the pike for that. I actually was ready to hit the ground running when I got back from DC, and then I got sick, and so got a little bit of a hold. But yeah, I think that's all I had for. I just got talking. I got a little carried away talking, and I forgot to do any of the housekeeping I was going to do at the beginning. But I think that's it. Okay, so let's see here. A few different things I have today. President Fed posting on the main. I got some interesting economic data. Got some, the DHS account is acting up again. And big announcement for those of you, for our lawyer bros out there, our guys who have joined Das Juden, the industry of Das Juden. Well, you have the opportunity to go ply your trade in service of our country. Some information on that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the foreign domestic split thing. Then we're going to talk about the 2028 primary and some of the different things that are happening toward that end. Talk a little electoral stuff. And then, if my voice survives, I really hope it does. If my voice survives to the end, then I've got two very, very good things to read. One of them is this just absolutely tremendous post from Scorched Earth Policy about men. Men, particularly through the eyes of women. That he hasn't shown up here on the show for a while, but the man can whip a paragraph into shape, and he did it to a whole bunch of them. And then after that, I've got this blog post from Dave Green, the distributist, how conservatism died, an open letter to Rod Dreher. So this is a hopefully if my voice gets me through all of this, then this should be a fun one. So please do tip your streamer, and we will get started. So first of all, Trump, Fed posting on the main. He retroosted someone saying regarding Congress, or not Congress specifically, but regarding this video that the Democrat senators and representatives put out. I played for you guys yesterday with Alyssa Slotkin and these other people saying, encouraging the military to disobey unlawful orders. Which begs the question, well, which orders do you believe have been unlawful? Or which orders do you think are going to be unlawful? More like, which orders are you planning to sell as unlawful? This is strictly, specifically telling the armed forces, be prepared for us to encourage you to assault the executive branch. That's what this was. This is elected officials.
Back, baby. The white man is
Howie
back.
Snowden.
Where's my wigger pig?
I don't know what's wrong, Howie. For whatever reason, the Wigger Pig won't show up for him. I don't understand why. He's got a membership, and I had it, and other people were able to post the Wigger Pig. I don't know what's going on, man. Maybe you can sign out of the app and sign back in again. You should have it. You do have a membership. At least it shows up on my my chat here that you are a member. So everyone post Wigger Pigs in honor of poor Howie. Thank you for the $50 tip, my man. I appreciate you. So yeah, this is Democrat elected officials just openly engaging, participating in laying the groundwork for a color revolution out in the open. And this is the president saying, "I see you. I know exactly what you're doing." Someone replied to the Washington Examiner on Truth Social, and Donald Trump retrusted it. "Hang them, George Washington would." He also tweeted something else about, or he trusted something else about, he said seditious. This is openly seditious behavior. And yes, he's saying, "I see you. I understand exactly what you just did. I understand the game you're playing. You're not cute. We know what's happening." Yeah, T-Con, he renews his subscription. He said Boomerwaffen goes hard over on Truth Social. This is why we need the boomers around. This is one of the great things about the boomers, is they will happily Fed post like none other. Just wide open. They will post their social security number on their Fed posts. They're wonderful, beautiful people. Yeah, this is twice in 1 week. Trump's taking the gloves off. Yes. This is a signal that you want to try to escalate on me. I'm going to escalate on you. You haven't escalated past the point of no return yet, so you're getting a shot across the bow. So my dad Fed posts on Facebook. Yeah, right. They don't even have a category for Fed posting. The beautiful, guileless boomer. Yes, this doesn't even occur to them. They are wholly innocent. They are like a toddler showing up on social media. Shout out to all of our boomers who are exceptions, but by and large, they're kind of like if I allowed my son to post things on the internet, he would be posting whatever's on his mind. He would have no filter. Boomers are the same way. Our job is not to go to war with the boomers. Our job is to rally the boomers to go to war for us. This is why we must redeem the boomers. They're one of our most powerful weapons against the deep state. We have literally the archetypal boomer at our head. Our great commander-in-chief is the archetypal Fed-posting boomer who literally prominently entered politics by questioning whether Barack Obama was born in Kenya. That was his first major foray into politics. He was a birther. This is who Donald Trump is. Eastwood's blog looks like Creed Bratton's. Yes. Oh, God, I'm raising Creed Bratton. Oh, God bless my wife. Say a prayer for Amy and drop a $5 in the tip jar to assuage her poor abused soul. Where's the damn birth certificate, Panikins? Yes, our job is to rally the Boomerwaffen. We must recruit the Boomerwaffen. This is why all the anti-boomer, I understand the spirit of it. I understand the spirit. I in many ways I share it. I have so many boomers in my life that I love. And the boomer mindset is just like scraping sandpaper across my eyeballs. Just bare eyeballs. Just it is. But We must forbear. Creed Bratton thoughts. Dwight Schrute brutalism. Yeah. Oh, I think I have more on this coming here in just a little bit, so I'm gonna just move to this. This led to the best headline in the world. Just you can't get so bogged down in all of the narrative and everything to not step back and appreciate moments like this. We've got a headline coming from the White House. Trump does not want to execute members of Congress, White House says. What a timeline. What an incredible timeline. The White House has to confirm through media organs that that Trump is not currently planning to execute members of Congress. Do you see how far? You see how far the conversation has moved? Stop, don't make me laugh. I said start with a big ask and then you seem magnanimous when you're willing to be negotiated down. It's called art of the deal, folks. Our Trump is a negotiator. Forthwith, J.D. Vance is not going to be the next president. J.D. Vance is going to be the next Trump. We're going to name the office after him. Trump is the head of MAGA in perpetuity. J.D. Vance will be the next Trump. He will not be the president. Donald Trump is the last president. J.D. Vance will be the second Trump. Yes, Trump House, not White House. Yes. Yes. We're negotiating, folks. Just Loki had a good take on this as well. He said, this is coming right on the heels of, what was the other thing? There was some other, I can't keep track of all this shit. There was some other story of, how can I not think of what this was? There was something else that was going on in the news where some of Trump's lessers might be starting to take some fire, and he's absorbing fire was basically what he said. Maybe I could just find the other tweet. I thought I'd saved it, and then I hadn't, and I was too bedraggled to go look for it. He said, scroll down. What do you say here? No politician other than Trump would respond to the Democrats' seditious incitement by threatening to hang them all. Not since Andrew Jackson have we seen such clear-sightedness. Yes. Yes. Just because he doesn't want to doesn't mean he wouldn't. Right? Yes. Not Trump is not going to. Trump doesn't want to. I'm telling you, members of Congress, I don't want to hang you. But I may be obligated to hang you. What's the quote that he posted from Napoleon? He who saves his country breaks no law. I love the way they phrase it. He doesn't want to execute members of Congress. John Doyle, Patriot. We're going to talk about him here in a little bit. Where is... Yeah. Fraser Payne said, I think he does this to test the waters. So, Mr. President, the American people are with you. 115%. What he said was seditious. He posted this himself. Seditious behavior punishable by death. He actually posted that. Spoilers. Motherfuckers tweeted a lot today. Here it is. He said, Trump is Fed posting on the Main to keep the heat directed at himself. It's called leadership. In addition to trying to sow dissension this was his point. In addition to trying to sow dissension in the ranks, the recent Democrat stunt is basically a veiled threat at many individual service members, the ones who would presumably follow unlawful orders. So in order to protect the service as commander-in-chief, Trump has to say, oh yeah, how about I just fucking kill you? Yes. That's exactly it. That's the response. This is Don Trump Leone. He's winging this shit. He's going off the gut. This isn't some like planned strategy. No, he's like, remember, if you're engaging in sedition, I'm obligated to kill you. Uh-oh. Voice just took a turn for the worse. Let me dial it down a little bit here. Not press the voice nearly as much.
I've got an idea. Why don't we just kill him?
Don Trump Leone, I got to give credit to Tom Luongo for that one. So a job shocker from Zero Hedge. September payrolls print above all forecasts, but unemployment rate hits 4-year high. So the range of estimates is extremely broad, from 105K on the upper end to just down 20K on the lower. That was from the preview of it. We also said if today's job number is atrocious, the Fed would once again be viewed as being behind the curve. So perhaps working in conjunction with the newly returned BLS employees, the outgoing Fed chair snuck in a pointer or two. And in an attempt to avert allegations of blowing up the economy, moments ago the BLS reported that the delayed September number came in a stronger than all estimates, 119K jobs. So before the government shutdown, the September number that was delayed is saying that it was a extremely, extremely strong number. A 5 sigma beat to the median estimate. Median estimate was about 55,000, and it came in at 119. Which, however, followed yet another downward revision as the total non-farm payroll employment for July was revised down by 7,000, from plus 79,000 to plus 72,000. And the change for August was revised down by 26,000, from plus 22,000 to minus 4,000. So actually lost 4,000, as opposed to only gaining 22,000. So much for Goldman's thesis. August will be replaced sharply higher. With these revisions, employment in July and August combined is 33,000 lower than previously reported and continues the trend of relentless downward revisions. Then he gives the composition of jobs here. Healthcare. So professional and business services saw the biggest job losses, while education and health services and leisure and hospitality saw the biggest job gains. So there's still a lot of the old the old economic employment model in the system right now. And all the numbers are kind of going haywire because with the structural financial changes that are being made, along with all the new investment and all the tariffs and all the deportations and all the defunding of different organizations, everything's kind of going every which way. It's probably really difficult to get really clear data on a lot of these things right now. So, federal government employment continued to decline in September, down 3,000. It is down by 97,000 since reaching a peak in January. We'll have more on that here in just a moment. Manufacturing jobs fell for the 6th straight month because, again, a lot of these trade deals that Trump has negotiated have not been fully and completely consummated yet because they're waiting on the Supreme Court, I think. I think that's one of the big reasons why they haven't been fully consummated, though they have to a large degree. A lot of this is sector dependent. Like on net, things are bad, but in certain sectors, things are starting to improve in certain geographical locations. After August's surge in part-time jobs and a decline in full-time, September flipped the script with a surge in full-time jobs as part-time jobs tumbled. So there's kind of going back and forth, sort of treading water. Private employers added 97,000 jobs in September. Yet even as the payrolls came in red hot, more than offsetting this euphoria was the jump in the U.S. unemployment rate to 4.4% in September, its highest in 4 years. So you can see the relative jump there in the unemployment rate, which has been sort of steadily climbing throughout Trump's term. Now, this I don't think is all that surprising, because some of these are things that are going to take a while to kick in. So you're going to kind of continue with a lot of the momentum of the previous administration. And then many of the priority things that they've done would involve people losing their jobs. So firing federal employees, laying off federal contractors, cutting funding to programs, deporting people. All of these things are going to create a lot of noise that's going to have upward pressure on the unemployment number, given the various ways that it's accumulated and all the different variables that are accumulated to calculate it. Yeah, I'm sure that foreigners losing their jobs somehow pushes upward pressure on the unemployment rate, because that's a very gamed number. It's not just some like raw number that they can just pull out. For example, this unemployment jump is being led by black unemployment. So a lot of federal workers are being laid off, and a lot of state workers, a lot of NGO workers, and unsurprisingly, black people are overrepresented among those groups. However, the labor participation rate rose for the second month in a row. So more people are entering the job market, even if the unemployment rate is climbing. Because again, the way that these are you actively looking? Have you been actively looking in X amount of time over the past X number of months? There's a bunch of different ways they game this number. So to kind of categorize the different sorts of people. And then there's probably a lot of people who have, who are either on the dole, who mark themselves as unemployed, or they have various different ways of getting income where they can sort of mark themselves as unemployed, but they've got various digital ways of generating income themselves. So these numbers are really, really foggy. But yeah, this is the first time in history we should be happy the unemployment numbers are high, right? Because there are a lot of people being fired who need to be fired. Then comes the hiring the people who need to be hired. Saving the best for last, here's the big one. The number of native-born workers in September surged by 676,000, while foreign-born workers tumbled by 70,000. T-Con.
If your voice is going out, try putting a little Vaseline on near the back of your throat. It's an old Elton John trick that works like a charm.
No! That's not going to happen. Well, I don't know. I'm sure there's like some beef fat or chicken fat in here. So maybe that's sort of like it. Let me smooth out the back of the throat. Ha! Samoa Bob says, "That's not my job," was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Oof! Whammo! That is a direct hit, sir. Yeah, Tyler says people who haven't looked for a job at all in 6+ months aren't counted as unemployed in the unemployment rate. So that rate going up could be those people now looking for work. Right. Yes. Yes. So this is one of the most important numbers, that native-born workers are surging, drastically increasing, while foreign-born are dropping. And some context, since March, or when Trump effectively became president, the number of foreign-born workers, mostly illegal aliens, has plunged by 1.422 million, while native-born workers have increased by 1.964 million to a record 133.15 million. So we have a record number of native-born workers working now. And almost 1.5 million foreign-born workers who were documented in some way to be categorized in this number have plunged by almost 1.5 million. Putting this all together, rate cut odds are higher following the jump in the unemployment rate. Now, what will Fed speak do now? What will Fed speak do now? Get a freaking editor, Zero Hedge. What I have here. Oh, yeah. So from EJ and Tony, the Trump administration has managed to reduce federal payrolls, ex-Postal Service, every single month this year. Promises made, promises kept. So every single month this year, federal payrolls have been reduced. Peter St. Onge says Trump's already reversed half of Biden's orgy of federal hiring. Another 70,000 to break even, then another million to save the republic. And, man, it'd be great if we get even more than that. Let's talk about DHS for a minute. So Queen City News, which is some news agency, 56,000 followers, your home for the most local news in the Carolinas. They posted this morning, Charlotte's Web over. U.S. Customs and Border Protection operation ends. ICE remains operational in Mecklenburg County, sheriff says. Charlotte's Web is the name of the immigration raid operation that they're doing in Charlotte, the Charlotte area. And so they posted this. And very quickly, Tricia McLaughlin, the spokeswoman for the DHS, she came out and said, no, this isn't ending anytime soon. And a few other people kind of counter-signaled it. And then from the administration, were like, you're just making shit up. And my thought was, well, good. Like let them let them think that. So then the DHS account went and did this. Dear criminal illegal aliens, we are gone. It's safe to come out. I'm trying really hard not to laugh. It's so good. All I could say when I saw this was, oh my God. Oh, yes, Slutty Milk. Which one of you, and I swear it's not me, runs the DHS account? Just incredible posting. Incredible. I needed that. We all needed that. It's just so good. Just imagine them laughing while they made that. Yes. Imagine getting paid a salary to serve our president and make absolute bangers. Incredible content. Yes. Yes. Matt Van Swole says every single dollar of my taxes should go right to A, deportations, B, giving whoever runs this X account a Christmas bonus. Oh. Oh, what'd this guy say? I live in North Carolina. The stories of low business and school attendance are true. The stories of traffic reduction are true. Don't announce anything because way more than just a few hundred have to go. Yeah. There's two ways to go about this. One is to just keep doing a big show of force and be like, hell no, we're not going anywhere, to scare them away. And then the other is this. You you run off and pretend you're gone, and they all come back out, and then you get them again. This ought to be good for morale. If this does not give you a morale boost, it doesn't have to be a massive one, but if this doesn't give you a little kick in the pants, that's a you thing. You got to figure that out yourself. This one too. Again, this is the gray check mark Homeland Security account. Rent is too high. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. Groceries cost too much. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. There aren't enough jobs. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. Women don't feel safe walking down the street. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. Traffic is terrible. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. Healthcare is too expensive. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. Welfare spending is through the roof. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. I can't afford a car. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. I can't afford a house. There are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country. Many problems. A simple answer. Guys, did you know there are tens of millions of criminal illegals in our country? That means that as they go about their enforcement activities, their goal is deporting tens of millions of people. You can be autistic. You can say, you're just your criminal illegals. They only said criminal illegals. They said tens of millions. They're talking about deporting tens of millions of people. Tens of millions. Can we get tens of millions of people deported? Please. I don't give a shit whether they're legal or illegal. Give me tens of millions of deportations. That's what's being signaled here. That's the standard being set. Go listen to John Doyle's podcast today, where he went through the wins that this administration has had, and he told a compelling story with it as well. Why they've done what they've done so far, and why there's every reason in the world to believe that it's only going to increase because of the groundwork, the foundation that has been laid to ensure that it increases. 10,000 new ICE plus 3,000 new CBP, Border Patrol, greater percentage of Border Patrol agents being pulled off the border for interior enforcement, plus 287G programs means 2026 is about to ramp the fuck up in deportations. Never doom. Do not doom. Much more to come. Why don't you put your money where your mouth is? Restore integrity to America's immigration courts. If you're a legal professional, join the Department of Justice as a deportation judge to preside over cases and determine whether an alien must stay or leave our nation. Make decisions with generational consequences. You be the judge. Join.justice.gov. Henceforth, if you have a law degree or if you have legal experience, they said legal professional, not law degree, legal professional. If you have any experience in the legal profession and you have not applied to this, I don't want to hear a single thing from you about deportations. Not a single thing. If you apply to this and you get rejected, okay, I'll listen to your opinions again. But other than that, if you're complaining about obstruction or about not enough deportations, and you are a paralegal, a lawyer, for fuck's sake, if you're a lawyer and you do not apply for this, you do not get to talk about deportations. You opted your way out of that. Because look at this. If you're a legal professional, the Trump administration is calling on you to join the Justice Department as a deportation judge to restore integrity and honor to our nation's immigration court system. Salary, $159,951 to $207,500. 70 nationwide locations. Potential for full-time remote work. You could be a full-time remote immigration judge. Yes, this is a potential fast track to the bench. This is how we can get our guys into the court system. Imagine chilling at home and kicking out Browns. Nirvana. Right. Your president is offering you an opportunity to sit at home and kick people out of the country. You can no longer complain. Go get a job. Serve your president. Serve your country. To fill these spots, you should allow any citizen to pass an extensive exam to ensure these judges are going to follow the law. Think of it like the patent bar. They allow engineers to take it because it's easier. Same situation here. You can have far more qualified candidates. This is a sword that cuts both ways. Because, like, on one hand, if any citizen can do it to get there, then it expands the possibilities even further. Got a lot of guys who are just maybe they're making a job, they're making decent money or whatever, doing something, but they could go pass this exam and go do that, make the career change. But that's also what law school is. So I suppose it would be an improvement if it's quicker and easier and cheaper to get through than law school. That would be an improvement. Fully endorse that. Yes, give us something like that. This deportations effort, this getting foreigners out of the country thing, is going to take decades. I don't think a lot of people understand the magnitude of this project. It's going to take decades. As a matter of illustration, what was the number? I think it was 50 million. If you had to meet 50 million people, I think it was 50 million people. I could do the math to reverse engineer, but it's something along these lines. If you had to meet 50 million people and you met one a minute, it would take you like 95 years. Streets and storm blowing in. Do I need to unplug the truck? Probably not. You could. It'd be fine. It would take you 95 years to meet something. It was something like 50 million people. If you're trying to get 50 million people deported from the country, you realize that you would need to devote something like, I don't know, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe like 1.5 billion people on that project to get it done in like a year. You understand the magnitude of this project. It's going to take us decades to do this. You got to strap in. This isn't for the faint of heart. This isn't for the weak-stomached who can only cling, who can only hold on to hope for a few months. No, this is a problem that our children are going to be involved in solving. That's how bad it is. So we're playing the long game here. Got a couple thoughts here on this. Yeah, Rob, man hours per deporting and illegal ratio are probably crazy. It's something like probably at least 100 to 1 for the actual physical deportations. This is why self-deportation is going to be so necessary. And they're already starting to arrest employers. These stories keep trickling in more and more. Go follow and appeal to pragmatism on Telegram. Look it up or go back to, it was last episode or the one before. It wouldn't be the Pseudowave episode. I think it was the one before that. Within the last couple episodes, just scroll down. You'll see a link to an appeal to pragmatism on one of the episode's show notes. Go follow that channel. Yeah, it needs a Twitter, big time. Maybe that's one of you guys can start that. You could reach out to them and see if they want you to or if they care if you do. Do kind of like a Libs of TikTok, except it's like just screenshotting an appeal to pragmatism stuff and posting it on Twitter. More people need to see that. All these things that are happening. At Practical Politics on Telegram. That's the name of the channel. Thanks, Sluttymo. They're starting to arrest employers. Remittance tax kicks in January 1st. Are many of these things small measures? Yes, they are. Because that's how you start. J.D. Vance was very prescient. He said, in answer, I think it was this specific question itself, like, how are you going to get this many people out of the country? And he said, the way you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. Just get the next one out. Just get the next one out. Just get the next one out. Keep getting them out. No matter what, just keep getting them out. Every possible way, while also ensuring that you maintain political power so that you can continue the process on its way. That's an important part of getting people out. Electoral considerations are an important part of getting everyone out. You can't just depend upon that as being the one single solution that fixes everything else, even if it is perhaps the most fundamental issue. This has to be a broad spectrum approach. Mobilization of the entire society virtually. Substantial portions, substantial swaths of the society, all cooperating and rowing in the same direction. So I've talked before on the show about this, like there's the foreign versus domestic concerns. That these concerns are one and the same. So absolutely bonkers story about Somalian immigrant communities in Minnesota overdiagnosing their own kids with autism so that they can funnel billions of Medicaid dollars back to terrorist cells in Somalia. Published by Chris Rufo. The largest funder of Al-Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer. In a press release announcing the indictment, the U.S. Attorney's Office made clear that an alleged autism fraud scheme extended to a wide network of people. To drive up enrollment, Hassan and her partners paid monthly cash kickback payments to the parents of children who enrolled, the release reads. These kickback payments ranged from approximately $300 to $1,500 per month per child. The amount of these payments was contingent on the services DHS authorized a child to receive. The higher the authorization amount, the higher the kickback. Often, parents threatened to leave and take their children to other autism centers if they did not get paid higher kickbacks. Much like with the HSS program, autism claims to Medicaid in Minnesota have skyrocketed in recent years from $3 million in 2018 to $54 million in 2019. Autism claims to Medicaid in Minnesota went from $3 million to $54 million in 1 year. Then to $77 million in 2020, $183 million in 2021, $279 million in 2022, and $399 million in 2023. From 2018 to 2023, autism claims to Medicaid in Minnesota went from $3 million to $399 million. Meanwhile, the number of autism providers in the state spiked from 41 to 328 over the same period, with many in the Somali community establishing their own autism treatment centers, citing the need for culturally appropriate programming. By the time the fraud scheme was exposed, 1 in 16 Somali 4-year-olds in the state had reportedly been diagnosed with autism, a rate more than triple the state average. Imagine this. Do you see the nature of this fraud scheme? They brought in a class of people that are going to be disproportionately represented on the lower end of the bell curve. Then they diagnosed them with autism because they're retarded. They are literally low IQ. They diagnosed them with autism so they could facilitate this fraud scheme, just extracting taxpayer money through Medicaid. Massive Medicaid fraud that's being turned into a funding source for militia groups overseas. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. The gall of these people. On the basis of, what was the term? Culturally appropriate programming. Just insane. This guy's like, this broke my brain. From $3 million to $399 million in 5 years, and nobody flagged it until now? How many programs are there like this? This is not a program that was set up domestically. It has a domestic component and it has a foreign component. These are two parts of the same thing. And if you're going to deport these Somalis, you got to get them back to Somalia, where they have to be accepted. Because it is 2025 and we still can't just start throwing them out of airplanes over the country. Remember, we have to win elections still. And if they start throwing people out of airplanes over the country, they're going to really energize a certain segment of the population in one direction, and they're going to really energize another large segment of the population in the other direction. We're not there yet. I said yet. This is the thing where the autists, the libertarian inclined, this is where you have to stand down. You have to recognize that there are certain wavelengths that you're incapable of tapping into. Some of us can tap into that. And we're telling you, we're not there yet. That's not a productive thing. You have to negotiate the deployment of them, or you have to send them somewhere else. We're talking about moving millions and millions of people out of the country. They have to be put somewhere. And you could say, I don't care where they go. Well, someone has to. People aren't going to do it for free. They're going to have to be paid. There's tremendous networks that have to be set up. It's much more difficult to send them back out than it was to just open the doors and bring them all in, especially when you're rowing upstream. Same thing goes for this. I saw a lot of people who were really demoralized by this. Trump truce did. Tremendous atrocities are taking place in Sudan, It has become the most violent place on earth and likewise the single biggest humanitarian crisis. Food, doctors, and everything else are desperately needed. Arab leaders from all over the world, in particular the highly respected Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who has just left the United States, have asked me to use the power and influence of the presidency to bring an immediate halt to what is taking place in Sudan. It is considered a great civilization and culture, unfortunately gone bad, but one that can be fixed with the cooperation and coordination of countries, including those in the region of tremendous wealth who want this to happen. We will work with Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, and other Middle Eastern partners to get these atrocities to end, while at the same time stabilizing Sudan. Thank you for your attention in this matter. God bless the world. So we've seen a pattern in the way that they are negotiating these deals. We saw with the Israel-Gaza situation. We're starting to see it with the framework of a deal that's coming out about Ukraine-Russia. Get into more of that as more comes out. These are all being negotiated in a way that's like, you guys settle it. You guys figure this out. We're going to apply pressure, bring pressure to bear, extract a VIG from it, and move on. But there's more to this. Because I saw that and I was like,
Welcome to the Gulag. If you survive, you earn your freedom.
Ay caramba! Dave Johnson? What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? 10 subscriptions. Thank you, Dave Johnson. Patriot. Patriots just won the AFC East? Did they actually? I forgot that there was football tonight. That's how out of it I've been. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. He has just jumped into the lead now. He has now gifted 20 subs this month. Dave Johnson, you are a motherfucking patriot.
You know, Dave Johnson is the gayest person to ever walk this green earth.
That deserves... Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. When I saw this, I was like, that's fascinating. Because I was just listening to Mike Benz recently. Mike Benz was talking about South Sudan. So South Sudan is one of these places that's like, it's not Sudan, it's South Sudan. He was just talking about this just recently. Look at this. Soros-funded group behind lawsuit blocking Trump from deporting violent illegal aliens to South Sudan. Huh. Interesting. Open Society Foundations. The Right to Nationality and the Secession of South Sudan. In January 2011, after years of civil war, the people of South Sudan voted overwhelmingly for separation from the Republic of Sudan. I bet they did. Do you see? Like, the entire structure of the system has been the United States is obligated to go in and fix these little internal squabbles, which invariably means causing these fights and then importing all of the people. So now, Trump is in this all-out war against Soros, effectively, and who Soros represents. Sudanese, uh-oh! What he's doing is he's going to all these little hotspots around the country, around the world, and he's resolving these disputes using economic and trade pressure, forcing these to negotiate out, and cutting off all these different angles that the Soros networks are working through to set up the importation of these illegals and of all these different, and the flows of money that go with all of this to fund the different organized crime groups, whether it's the cartels, the Islamist jihadists, the Tren de Aragua, the sex traffickers, the human traffickers, all these different black markets. This is all one issue. We live in a globalized world. To engage in the globalized world on globalized territory is not to be a globalist. There's a difference. So when Trump he's talking about these different regions have a direct relationship to the domestic world, because they all involve trade deals, currency exchanges. Holy crap on a cracker. It is thundering like a mofo out there. They're restructuring the entire global monetary system. This is the meta to all of this. So this is going to necessarily, if you want the onshoring of manufacturing, if you want the deportations, the people out of the country, if you want the affordability crisis solved, all of these things play a part. You cannot occupy the office of president and not engage in these things. Because if you don't proactively deal with them, they're going to be dealt with for you. The people who are being demoralized right now, who feel like Trump has abandoned them, who feel like Trump has abandoned, has been co-opted. They're literally being libertarians. This is literally libertarian purity spiraling. Just swap the foreign versus domestic for public versus private, and it's the exact same thing. If you do away with that fake distinction, suddenly you're going to find a lot of reasons to not be demoralized. So Ron DeSantis was asked if he's going to run for president in 2028, which is interesting because he's very much been doing this like run to the right of Trump thing, policy-wise. Doing a great job of it too. Just fantastic as a governor. Going hard on vaccines, on wokeness, on H-1Bs, immigration. Really, really speaking to the base directly. And there's a question here, which is this the real Ron DeSantis? Was he recruited to challenge Trump for the crown in 2024? Take bad advice and be like, you know what? That was terrible. It seemed like his heart wasn't in it from the beginning. And is he now like, I'm leaving that life behind? I'm severing ties with the people, in political terms, not like fuck you, you're not allowed to come to my, my kid's football game or whatever. But just, is this him realizing he fucked up and wising up and angling for, I don't know, attorney general, or perhaps running for the Senate, something like that? Or has he gotten the okay to run to the right of Trump on these sorts of things? Attorney general. Slutty milk. You stooped to that level, did you? Slutty milk emotes in the chat. Apologies, folks. I think it's TBD. I don't know. That's what I say. I don't know the answer to that question. But he did answer this question very well. He very, very well politicked answer here.
Have you decided whether you're going to run for president again? No, because we have one president that just got in office less than a year ago, and that's really the opportunity to change the country. There's obviously been a lot of positives with shutting the border and some of the other things, but Congress needs to be more productive. There's a lot more meat on the bone for them to do, and if you look at what happened in the elections 2 weeks ago, Republicans got their clock clean. Going into the midterms, you got to have a different dynamic, and I think the way you keep Congress is to be productive, for these members to produce good legislation. It can't be all President Trump's shoulders having to do executive orders.
And is this?
It's fascinating that he's so effective as a effective as an executive at the state level, but he's just not presidential quality. It's not that he doesn't have executive qualities. He's just not. He doesn't have. He's not Trump. That's what it is. Trump has redefined the office. Once upon a time, a guy like Ron DeSantis may have been presidential material. But he just isn't now. He would make a very good vice president if he was held in line on certain issues. He could be a good vice president. But he doesn't he just doesn't have the presidential quality. But I think we're coming up to he can't command the respect of an entire nation. He's too nerdy. I think that's the thing. He's too nerdy. He's too much of a nerd. He's great. He's fine. He's a very nice nerd. And he does really well as a viceroy. He's a very, very good viceroy. Nothing else matters besides the fact he's not 6'2". Yeah, I mean, I think someone who's not 6'2" could still command presidential respect if he was a unique personality. And DeSantis does not have the unique personality that could command that respect. But especially for the United States, yeah, you can't be the commander-in-chief of the United States if you're under 6 foot. I do think that there is something to that. But it seems as if the primaries have already started. You should already be in primary mode because the ground is being laid for the primaries. People are already beginning to stake out their positions and jockeying and sending signals. You've got Mike Pence definitely making noises like he's planning to run. You've got Ted Cruz doing the same. And I can only imagine that they would wind up on a ticket together because they're going for the exact same market. They're basically the exact same guy. So I could only imagine that they are going to wind up on a ticket together, and that's going to be the Con Inc. ticket. Now, something may change between now and then, but my guess is that's what's going to happen, which leaves Ron DeSantis as a very interesting wild card. Because he can't run for governor again, unless they pull a Bukele of some type, which they don't seem inclined to do. So, does he become JD's vice president? I don't know about that. Who would I rather have, JD, or who would I rather have, Ron DeSantis or Marco Rubio? I don't know about that. Neither one of them just really hits the spot. They both have me kind of like, I can see how this could go really, really well, and I can see how this could really, really not go well. But I also don't know that, I don't see the utility in him running on his own. I can't imagine. Unless he is wholly in Trump's pocket and he runs on his own to attack the Ted Cruz, Mike Pence wing of the party. Would he really do that? Can you really see Ron DeSantis being an attack dog for Trump on behalf of Trump against Ted Cruz and Mike Pence? Or Ted Cruz or Mike Pence? I don't know. I don't think I do. I don't think I see that. So I wonder if he winds up being, if there's a point at which the administration offers him the attorney general position as a way of preventing him from running. That'd be very interesting. These are all just sort of thoughts I had today as I was kind of gaming this out in my head. And I I don't have a really clear picture on any of these yet, and I'm willing to be moved on all these points, but this is something I was musing through today. Because look at this. From WIBC, ambush. Is the Bush family plotting to retake the GOP from Trump? Rumors are circulating inside Republican circles that allies of former President George W. Bush may be quietly preparing a bid to reclaim the GOP from Donald Trump's influence. Least surprising thing ever. Reports from the Daily Mail suggest that new rumors are circulating about an alleged effort to bring an end to what some call the Bush exile. This supposed initiative is described as an attempt by certain Republicans to regain control of the GOP from Donald Trump and his Make America Great Again movement. According to the outlet, there are claims that a sort of behind-the-scenes Republican network, still tied into influential connections nationwide, has been quietly positioning itself to step in once Trump is no longer on the scene. While the former president is said to be unwilling to openly criticize Trump, something that has reportedly frustrated some of his past advisors, he's believed to be open to subtly influencing the party's direction for the long term. A source identified as a former Bush official told the Daily Mail that Trump, quote, knows that there's no third term option, end quote, and noted that Vice President J.D. Vance, quote, has a head start over other Republicans eyeing the 2028 presidential race. The same former official forecast that there will be a big open field within the Republican Party in 2028. That is certainly what they would want to be the case. The outlet also reported that former Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Steele has urged the former president to re-engage with GOP politics, saying he possesses, quote, a voice that would resonate with a lot more Americans. This is totally old guard GOP. Breitbart News has previously highlighted several remarks George W. Bush made about Trump in a 2021 conversation with CBS News anchor Norah O'Donnell. Bush expressed that he believed Trump, quote, lacked the humility necessary to be an effective leader. Yada, yada, yada. Bush argued that Trump's isolationist United States was destabilizing around the world, warning that an isolationist turn by the U.S. was dangerous for the sake of peace. These comments followed Bush's own tenure in office, during which he led the United States in the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, yada, yada, yada. So, Mike Pence and Ted Cruz would definitely represent this faction of the old guard. I could see Ted Cruz being a little more distant from it, perhaps. And so perhaps the jockeying is between Mike Pence and Ted Cruz, but I could definitely see them, like, what's the, burying the hatchet together? I could definitely see them thinking, oh, we've got the super ticket here, you know? The question would be who's at the top, who's at the bottom? Who would the top and bottom be between Ted Cruz and Mike Pence? I know that I know that we would all be under Israel. Am I right? So, yeah, this is clearly what's spinning up here. And the Republican primary is going to be the general election. Whoever wins the Republican primary is going to win the election. Rob P. says Vance and Don Jr. would ensure continuity in Boomer MAGA minds, I should have said. Yeah, that would be very interesting. You get the millennial / how old is Don Jr.? Is he Gen X? He's got to be Gen X, because Vance, whoa, is that a... Oh. I thought the first picture of Trump was an AI picture. He's just kind of soft. 47, born in 77, so he's very, very young Gen X. Yeah, I don't know. The Vance Don Jr. one would be a hell of a lot of fun. I just don't know that Don Jr. is vice presidential material. You know, and it could be that he's basically just kind of a figurehead, sort of. He just is he's maintaining the Trump name there. And then, you know, you have guys like Miller and what do you call it? Miller and Rubio to manage things. But then where Rubio goes would be very interesting. Like, does Rubio wind up throwing his horse in with the old school neocon, or does he make the cut clean and throw his lot in with supposedly one of his best friends, Vance? This is going to be an extraordinarily fascinating primary. Samoa Bob says, this is what I want to see, less of the outcome and more how some of our guys navigate the fight. Yes, it's going to be extremely, extremely revealing. Many hard stances are going to be taken. There's going to be an escalation in American political rhetoric. The Cheeky says people won't even watch the dim primary debates. It'll be 5-horse Republican bloodbath. Yeah. It's going to be a bloodbath. It could be Marco Grande or Et tu, Marco. Yes, indeed. Et tu, Marco. Yeah, very interesting. It's going to be a fascinating primary season. What was I going to say? There was something... Eric Schmidt. Yeah, I keep coming back. Like, Eric Schmidt has that, he definitely has presidential material. He definitely could be seen as very presidential, and he could be an enforcer as a VP. That'd be powerful. Vance Schmidt. Very competent masculine men. It'd be very, very interesting to see that ticket. Vance Schmidt. Speaking of the great vice president, here he is being just, as always, perfectly on message.
The American people don't want stupid wars and America's jobs going overseas and wide open borders. That is, whether intentional or not, that was the legacy of the Republican Party that came before Donald J. Trump. I'm glad the president got us away from that Republican Party. It lost, but it was also a disaster for the United States of America. Let's actually have a foreign policy where we focus on the interests of American citizens. Let's have an economic policy that's about building in the United States of America rather than shipping all of our jobs overseas and getting Wall Street enriched in the process. Let's have an economic policy that's about more self-sufficiency. I mean, I have 3 kids. I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. I don't want to wake up in a country where I take my kid to the doctor and they can't get antibiotics because the antibiotics that were invented in the United States of America are manufactured in some foreign country. That is the legacy of the Republican Party that came before Donald J. Trump. We're not going back to it.
I mean, you guys, come on. We're not going back. Yes, he's stealing Kamala's slogan. We're not going back to the Republican Party of pre-Donald Trump. It's not happening. And he can speak to it so well. Yeah, Small Bob says, Vance doesn't have the flash, but the man knows how to deliver and stay on message. He also knows how to hide his power level and wink at people like us. Yes. And he's very in tune with the cutting edge of the message, the narrative. He's in tune with the country, unlike just about anyone else. He's tapped in. He's got his connections in all the different worlds. He's got the online world. He's got the Appalachian world. He's got the tech world. He's got the elite academia world. He knows all these different cultures. He's got the military. He knows all these different cultures well. He knows people who are in all of these different cultures and can stay in touch with all of them. He is. I cannot wait to see the gloves start coming off. If Eric Schmidt was, I'm trying to think of memes. If Eric Schmidt was the vice president, like the easy one is like getting Schmidt faced. You also you don't want the VP to outshine the president. There's also, I think, a lot of utility in Trump sort of running out the clock on the third term thing, because it doesn't give any of the opponents clarity about which direction to direct their fire. Who are we firing at now? Are we attacking the left? Are we attacking Trump? Are we attacking Vance? We're just going to kind of attack Trump and Vance together as one? Running out the clock on that as long as possible is very useful. Now, how long is possible? I don't know, because you also don't want to run it out so much that then Vance doesn't have the opportunity to really emerge. You don't want him to just be like, oh, he's the one Trump said. Because there's a substantial portion of the population that will vote for Vance just because Trump endorses him. There's a pretty good number of people who will do that. But, it's not necessarily election determining. So you want Trump, if Trump's going to step aside, you want him to step aside, like, not too late. You don't want to kind of do the same thing that happened with Biden and Kamala. And it's a little different because, it's just different simply because Trump is not Biden and Vance is not Kamala. But you don't want that dynamic at play. Yeah, there's going to be so many things we can't even imagine yet, says T-Con. Yeah, it's just, there's so many good things. So it's going to be so fascinating to watch all of this play out. And it is going to change in the way that the 2016 election really fundamentally changed the playing field politically. The 2028 election is going to do the same thing. Here's Nayland Haley. This is the son of Nikki Haley, representative of the Zoomer generation, being queried by Tucker Carlson about the sentiments of the values, the sentiments, the current condition of the Zoomer generation. This is what he says.
And there's so many different aspects to immigration that it's not just the migration part of it, but a lot of other things that are just out of control.
Like what?
So naturalized citizens should not be able to hold public office.
So true.
Growing up here is a big part of understanding the country. We need to stop and limit the amount of foreign students that are coming into our universities. Some of them are spies, by the way, for foreign governments. But it's also just we should put our kids first.
Yes.
And we should also not allow dual citizenship because that's the stupidest idea. You're either American or you're not. And everyone wants to make it so complicated. That's the thing that I don't like about the past generation is they're always about the rules, the process, and regulation. No, it's really simple. You're just America first. People should have their loyalty to America first. And if they can't do that, then this ain't the country for you.
That's totally right. What about serving in a foreign military?
Listen to that last sentence.
Really simple. You're just America first. People should have their loyalty to America first. And if they can't do that, then this ain't the country for you.
If you can't do that, then this ain't the country for you. Polite, respectful, handsome, well-dressed young man. For the boomers, remember Tucker's audience. Who's Tucker's audience? Tucker's talking to boomers. He's talking to boomers and like his class of people. You've got this nice half-brown boy. You know the way that boomers are racist? They're like, oh, he's brown. Look at him. He's overcome so much. He's so polite and respectful and well-spoken. And he's Nikki Haley's son. Well, if you're just like a sort of generic boomer conservative, then you might be like, yeah, he's so articulate, exactly. You might be like, oh, Nikki Haley, and he's wow, he thinks for himself. He's an independent thinker, and he's so just polite and calm. Very well spoken. And like listen to the whole episode. He goes into talking about like how he became Catholic and his relationship to the church. It's very this is so each new episode of this season just has so many fascinating twists and turns. Yeah, Haley and her son are a good example of the old and new right. They are the perfect representation of that. Tucker asked him if you would consider running for office, and he didn't say no. Very interesting. People are already calling him a plant, and I'm like, you got to sit down and just listen to people. You can't listen to a kid talk and be like, oh yeah, he's absolutely some sort of like subversive plant that's trying to bait you all in for the Jeets. This is looking for your narrative. You already have your narrative. You're just looking for one. And the facts are flying in the face of it. See, that's the thing. The narrative can't depart from the facts too much. Yeah, that's the other thing. A plant is saying the things I like. Oh no. Look at that. Now they give us plants that say all the things that we like, who are just openly, blatantly saying we shouldn't allow dual citizenship. Naturalized citizens should not be able to hold public office. You're either American or you're not. If this is the plant, I'll take it. But just listen to the kid. He's plenty well spoken. You got to be able to smell sincerity when you see it. If you can't smell sincerity when you see it, that's the Tylenol talking. Bro, it's the Netflix adaptation of Nick Fuentes. Yeah. I guarantee you he's listened to Nick too.
That's totally right. What about serving in a foreign military?
Oh gosh, no, forget about it. You can't do that.
Of course not, right?
It's ridiculous. That idea alone is just insane.
Yeah.
Dual citizenship's already bad enough, but to serve in another country's military is disqualifying, really.
Of course. I mean, it's hard to believe it's even a conversation. What about language? Do you worry that, countries are united by their language, and language is inseparable from culture? Language is culture in a lot of ways, but this doesn't seem like an English-speaking country anymore.
Yeah, especially when you go to places like Minneapolis, Miami, New York, which I lived there for a little bit. And yeah, I want to be able to understand everybody. I just do. It's my country. I don't think I should have to speak another language in my own country. I don't think anyone wants that. I don't think it's good for us. Not saying that you can't know another language. I think that's great to know another language. That's good. But to have anything other than English as the primary language in this country, not acceptable.
You're not describing the priorities of the modern Republican Party at all here.
No, but hopefully one day it will be. That's what I hope will happen.
So my sense, but you would know, is that everything you just said for the past half an hour is like basically what most young men your age think who are conservative.
Who are conservative? Absolutely, yes.
Who are conservative. So do they look at the Republican Party as representing them?
No, not at all. And that's the struggle that we face. And that's where the anger comes from. And
he went on to ask him, he said, are there any, Tucker asked him, are there any political figures who you feel like represent you or who you look up to or you admire, respect? And he was like, well, you. And he was like, I'm not a political figure. I'm just a podcaster, And he said, but like politicians, elected officials, anyone. And he was like, not, that's kind of the thing. He's like, we don't feel represented by anyone. He's like, JD Vance says a lot of good stuff. He speaks to a lot of these issues, but it's just, yeah. It's funny because you've got Nick, you got John Doyle now. The ascension of John Doyle is a tremendous thing because it's well timed. It's very well timed. The man is the most eloquent delineator of the true sting perspective in the media right now. He is. I bow. I kneel. The kid can fucking spit it. And his first two episodes have been just absolute bangers. Just fist pumping, hell yeah, bangers. The only other person in that sort of class of conversation that ever gets me like that is Nick Fuentes. And the lore, the John Doyle Nick Fuentes lore is deep. I'm not even aware of all of it. I'm just kind of I've gathered some of it, but it's very deep. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, got John Doyle, got Nick Fuentes, you got Nayland. Is it Nayland Nolan? I think Tucker said Nayland. My brain has said Nayland. I guess Tucker must have said his name, and it didn't stick out to me that it was pronounced differently than my brain pronounces it. So I don't remember if he's Nayland or Nolan. I think Nayland is funny because it's like Sieg Heilin with Nayland. I want to get that going. Sieg Heilin with Nayland. I'm sure he'd appreciate that. But man, we're really starting to develop a profile of what the young Zoomer right-wing man thinks and values and is orienting around. And it's good to see. I'm very, very heartened. Here is just another, if you guys, I'm going to pimp John Doyle as much as I can because I want you guys to go listen to him. There's I don't think I've heard basically a single thing that he has ever said that I haven't been like, this is exactly what I've been trying to say, just expressed much more clearly and concisely. So if you haven't gone to listen to his show yet, you don't know who John Doyle is. Yeah, get your ass off the corners of the internet you've been in and go listen to John Doyle.
This summer is white boy summer, okay?
Why do you want to put an axe wound in between your son's legs?
John Doyle.
John Doyle.
John Doyle.
John Doyle.
I'm simply a guy who talks about politics on the internet. Sovereignty, nationalism, America first, mass deportations.
Your accent sounds foreign.
Simon, you guys see.
Okay, well, that's a little different from American these days.
We are in an area of Dallas that's referred to as the gayborhood.
Women's rights don't exist because God made man and woman. We all just have God-given rights in this country.
It's that old saying, don't ever discuss religion and politics. It's impolite. It's like, what else would you talk about?
You're not going to like this. I actually think we have an under-incarceration problem.
So I don't know if this is the right place to ask this. Do you guys have any biographies on George Floyd?
Incels don't like me. Oh my God.
We want things to be better. We want to have families. We want to have a life in this country. If you want our ideas to be mainstream, you need people in the mainstream representing those ideas. That's what Donald Trump showed us. That's what Charlie Kirk showed us. This is the model. It works. That's us on the way to total patriot victory.
Total patriot victory. That's what I believe in. Total patriot victory. See, John and a big difference. There's basically no daylight whatsoever between John Doyle and Nick Fuentes. There's different emphases in messaging and subjects that they choose to focus on for different strategic reasons. Here's one big difference. Nick Fuentes cannot speak to boomers. Nick Fuentes can't speak to basically anybody over 45 or 50. The exceptions will be the ones that prove the rule. John Doyle, on the other hand, John Doyle can speak to boomers. John Doyle is a Zoomer who can communicate to boomers. He can also communicate to every other generation. In this sense, he's kind of like a young Tucker Carlson, but has a totally a very different style. He is a master of the art. And I'm talking about this not just from the substance, but the delivery, the performance, he's going places. Yeah, Doyle has said that's part of what he aims to do, make this palatable and understandable for boomers, if I recall correctly. Yeah. He's a Zoomer who isn't stuck in terminally online speaking memes. Yes. He makes reference in the episode today to his Bill O'Reilly and Rush Limbaugh. He speaks to the Bill O'Reilly and Rush Limbaugh audiences. And he can connect with them. So this is a very, very good development. Whatever's going on with the Blaze, obviously I've got my skepticisms about it, but giving Orrin McIntyre a platform, paying him to do what he does, and then John Doyle, this is a very, very good development. This is tremendous, because one thing that's going to have to be navigated over the next decade or so, as we go through this really stark generational transition, because I think a lot of what's working out right now is we're incorporating the internet into generational politics. And the younger generations, like once upon a time, you had basically Gen X, who were the first generation to really grow up with online being a thing. Millennials even more so. Zoomers are the extremely online generation. And as the boomers die off, you're more and more moving. It's the internet has so dramatically changed the way that American culture exists and that global culture exists and interacts with itself. So as the boomer generation passes, you're moving into an age where Now you have every generation that's alive is an online generation. The boomers have come online, and ironically, it was largely boomers who built the internet, but as a generation, they've come online, but it was the younger generations who first really spread out and populated it. So, over the next decade or two, we're going to go through some pretty choppy waters because the two far ends of the spectrum here are almost completely incapable of communicating with each other. Here's one illustration I wanted to talk about. So, Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen is he's kind of a drama queen. I'll just leave it at that for now. He says, "Dear at GOP, you do not understand conservatives under 40. They want to give control of policy, the Supreme Court, and the military over to AI, literally Skynet and Mecha Caesar." And he has a video here where he goes into it and elaborates on it more. Conservatives under 40 are fed up with government and want to give control of the legislature, judiciary, and military to artificial intelligence, literally Skynet. And now, this is the actual, well, I mean, what I read. I wrote this out already. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I said, while this is true and important to consider from an electoral standpoint, it's also worth noting that 65 to 70% of the conservative-leaning voting population is over 40. Maintaining that base while appealing to the younger crowd is a delicate dance. Now, when I read this, I kind of read beyond his actual words to what he's trying to delineate the sort of nihilist, burn it all down, fuck everything sentiment that exists for conservatives under 40. And so I said I should modify to say I doubt the specific claim he's making is actually true, namely that conservatives under 40 want large language models controlling everything. But the fuck it all, Mecha Hitler is better than Congress sentiment is definitely prevalent. It's a real, if over-dramatized sentiment being hyper-dramatized by someone particularly fond of melodrama. It's also almost entirely foreign and horrifying to anyone over approximately 40 and especially over 50. The next several years will be extremely electorally complicated. This sentiment, the fuck it all, Mecha Hitler, I'm willing to accept Mecha Hitler if the alternative is Congress. That sentiment? Yeah, Patriot spotted, there's Mellon. That sentiment is almost entirely foreign and horrifying to anyone who's over 50. They have a hard time. They don't even have a mental model for that. Night Econ. But here's the thing. That you're taking a subset of a subset of a subset here. So you have the voting population, then you have the conservative-leaning voting population, and then you have the conservative-leaning voting population that is under 40. That subset of a subset of a subset accounts for something like 30 to maybe 40% of the conservative-leaning voting population. So the answer cannot be just over-index on conservatives under 40 and lean into them what they want and just pander to them. It can't be the winning political message cannot be the day of the pillow has come. Because yes, you will ingratiate yourself to this subset of a subset of a subset, but you will also ostracize this much larger subset of a subset of a subset. As Mellon says, anecdotally, Pennsylvania, I live here, is only even a fight because of ex-Tea Party boomer grassroots org started around 2008 to 2012. It would be completely lost without them. They're cringe at times, but effective. Yes, we need the boomers on side. We need the boomer whisperers. We need the people who recognize that you're not going to make boomers be not boomers, but you're going to communicate to them in a way that they can understand. I said it's way too early in the game to run the disenfranchise the boomers script, but it's too late to win with disenfranchise the zoomers. So, it's too early to disenfranchise the boomers, but it's too late to disenfranchise the zoomers. Thinking really cynically here. So it's going to take some serious talent to unite them. And thus far, we have one person who can do that. One person. Donald Trump is the one person who has demonstrated capacity for uniting the boomers and the zoomers. The task ahead is to determine, is J.D. Vance, can a millennial be the one who unites the boomers and the zoomers? Is that possible? And even more so, the Xers, Gen X. Because that's kind of like it's the forgotten generation. Nobody ever talks about the Xers. They're kind of boomer lights in a lot of ways. But they're also kind of like grown-up Zoomers in some ways as well. There's a similar sort of like tendency toward like cynicism or nihilism. Yeah, a gentleman known as Donald J. Trump. Life support unplugger. That was the way that Trump referred to him once upon a time. A gentleman known as Donald J. Trump. Have you heard of him? This is a fascinating task, but I will say that I believe that both Nick Fuentes, and John Doyle are going to play a major role in this. And watching the fact that they have this tension between them is very interesting. It's setting up to be a brawl for the ages. Tyler says, my parents are early Gen X and seem to like JD way more than Trump. Yeah, there's going to be a substantial portion of the population that actually finds JD to be way more stabilizing and calm and more. They see the Doyle-ectic. Oh my God! Slutty Milk's in the chat. The Doyle-ectic. That's what it is. The Goyle-ectic. I just thought of that one. Oh no! What have we created? The Doyle-ectic. We're the Astrolabe is going to become a channel where we monitor the Doyle-ectic. The Soy-electic. I'm droning out. Give me my HRT. I'm black-pilled. Kate says my boomer mom loves JD. Yeah, my parents are Gen X and they both love JD as well. There's going to be a lot of people who see JD as just like a breath of fresh air. It's finally like, okay, Trump is so like crazy and chaotic, and finally we're gonna settle down a little bit with JD Vance. He's calming and he's soothing and he's stable and he's chill. Doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. Just kind of going with it, man. It's all good. And oh hey, tornado warning. You are currently outside the immediate area affected by this alert. Central, capable moving east at 15 miles an hour. All right, so it's east of us, moving east. Okay, good to know. Thank you, Apple Watch. Oh yeah, they're coming through on my phone now too. Mr. Sue says JD will be an enforcer. He's the elder, cooler cousin you secretly wish was your brother. That's a cool analogy. 3/4 inch hail as soon as you're recording. Oh, of course. Great. Well, every other time that we've moved the truck because we thought hail was coming, hail has not come. So I'm losing the will to play that game. Rob says my boomer mom also loves JD while being completely J-pilled. You're welcome, I think. Tyler says a lot of people want a president who is relatively young or younger than them. Yeah, as someone who has energy. If anything, I think that's what I think JD could have a little more energy, and I think that's part of why literally hail. Yes, hail. I think that's part of what the primaries are going to do for him is they're going to put some energy behind him. Watching him like lay the smackdown on someone like that would be very good to see. He's done it before. We've seen that he has it in him. When he gets fired up, there's some fire in that belly. He's got to tap into that. Because I think that's going to be the thing that really motivates. Like the boomers want someone who's kind of who's sort of calm and more settled down. The Zoomers want to be amped up. The Zoomers want to be given a reason to hope, a reason to believe. They want something to rally behind. They're desperate for it. They'll convince themselves that they're actually just cynical and nihilistic, and because like being excited about something is gay, but they really want something to fire them up, to gas them up. Yeah, like you mentioned, JD can't outshine the president, so he might be hiding both power level and energy. Yeah, for sure. I think power levels are going to get exposed. They're going to have to get exposed. That's what's going to be great about this primary season is it's going to be exposing power levels. It's got to be done very, very carefully. Here's more evidence that Nick Fuentes is inevitable. So the president had the opportunity to smack him down, to distance himself from him, and he very conspicuously went out of his way to not do that. And so now we have the next move that's being made by the dude who is very close to being on the way out on his own party. Shout out to Azarker Pleb for bringing this one to my attention. I wouldn't have seen this otherwise. Chuck Schumer cries about Tucker Carlson's interview with Nick Fuentes. Tuck and Nicker. So much now, he's now pushing for a resolution disavowing Fuentes. We now have our favorite Palestinian senator, Crying Chuck, pushing for a congressional resolution disavowing a citizen of the United States.
Well, 3 days ago, the President of the United States declined to condemn Nick Fuentes' hateful views and defended Tucker Carlson's decision to give Fuentes a platform. The President was asked about his thoughts on the...
Watch him. He's like, reach the end of the page, look up at the audience.
Fuentes' hateful views and defended Tucker Carlson's decision to give Fuentes a platform.
Look up at the audience, hesitate for a beat, look back down again.
The President was asked about his thoughts on the interview. He declined to condemn Nick Fuentes. That is disgusting. For Donald Trump to excuse and protect the spread of Nick Fuentes' ideology.
What a fag.
Confirms what many of us have long said.
Nick Fuentes.
White supremacy and anti-Semitism are taking deep roots, unfortunately, within the Republican Party.
White man is back,
just as we saw from the leaked
white man
texts
is
of young
back.
Republicans, just as we saw from text messages of administration officials, the Nick Fuentes saga on the right reveals that anti-Semitism and white supremacy have been growing with disturbing currency within the right wing and within the right wing of the Republican Party. But I know this is not true of everyone on the Republican side, especially not for many Republicans in this chamber. Therefore, I will soon lead a resolution here in the Senate rejecting Nick Fuentes and his white supremacist views, condemning Carlson's platforming of hate, and condemning anti-Semitism and white supremacy wherever and whenever it occurs. In the coming days, I will work to grow support for my resolution so the Senate can take a clear stand against hatred and anti-Semitism.
You see what he's going to do? He's going to rally up support for his resolution. He's going to go around. The man whose leadership is on the brink of collapse just got comprehensively BTFO'd in the government shutdown. Got a bunch of people in his own party gunning for his chair. And he's going to go around and he's going to rally support for a resolution condemning Nick Fuentes. They are making Nick anti-fragile. They're forcing the issue here.
I hope my Republican colleagues will join me in this effort and co-sponsor this resolution. Calling out anti-Semitism should not be a partisan issue. In fact, when we refuse to condemn anti-Semitism,
no offense, but it sounds like
stay silent and fail to reject anti-Semitic rhetoric. When we normalize hateful figures spewing disgusting anti-Semitism, that is when anti-Semitism spreads throughout society like a poisonous wildfire. Americans don't want to see that happen, so my resolution will...
Poisonous wildfire. What was it Kevin Roberts said? A venomous coalition? A venomous coalition against a poisonous wildfire.
Give every single senator, a chance to make an important stand against hatred. The country must see us unite and fight this awful form of bigotry.
No, we're not doing that. You're getting called a slur. I don't know which one. Whichever one I feel like saying at the moment. You're getting called a slur.
Oh man, did I open up the same tab twice? Look at that. All right. So, now, are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
No thanks, irrelevant pervert.
I've got an idea. Why don't we just kill him?
We're going to kill them. You know, they're going to be like dead.
Shut up, bitch!
There we go. All right. Now, you guys ready for some word selling? This is going to be epic. Scorched earth policy. Let me give you some of the context here. You're going to see just how long this thing is that I'm about to read. But don't worry. It's going to be worth it. This is what he's reacting to. This video is going around of this person here crying, eating out at a restaurant. You don't know lonely until you have to take yourself for that meal alone. Because sitting in a room with strangers is better than sitting in your own thoughts in an empty room. And it turns out that this person here is a female to male transsexual. Sitting here crying in the restaurant, eating food, and posting a video about how lonely she is. Scorched earth policy. A great friend of mine once described men as unfathomably terrifying automatons in the eyes of women. Street Dawn, for the OGs who know, spoke of the average man bursting through doors, stomping the ground, and operating at a speed and force which could crush any woman into dust. To a woman, men are like wild animals or rogue factory machines. We command incomprehensibly higher levels of explosive strength and terrifying speed. We consume amounts of mass that would split your gut open and kill you simply out of amusement and mild hunger. Left to our own devices, we play raucous games until they grow beyond simulation and wipe out entire civilizations. We were born to be killed and were descended from those who refused to die. Such is the disparity between genders. We are entirely a different species from women. We cannot comprehend the world they live in. One where they depend on subterfuge, charm, and social code layered in complexities beyond our understanding. Such the same, the woman cannot comprehend the world of the man. Man, and all men, burrow in the comfort of trenches built by ancestors, tunnels and sluices of ritualistic behaviors meant to shelter us from ourselves in the great open killing fields of altercation. To be a man is to learn subconscious mechanisms for survival. Many modern men don't even understand the deeper reasoning behind why they naturally do things a certain way. It's easy to piece together the arithmetic of hunter-gatherer instincts for things like physical competition or displays of machismo. But many would be fascinated to understand how important seemingly superficial, performative, or even absurd social gestures are for upholding the biological health of mankind. To be a woman is to huddle amongst hens for warmth and protection. The sisterhood is a domed city in the radioactive wasteland, a collective at macro scale which contains fierce competition within. Womankind looks up in solidarity when the acid rain and meteors pelt the sky, but only for brief moments before scurrying through the labyrinth of treacherous status climbing and social signaling games. The female killing blow is akin to shoving the runts of the litter out of the trough to starve. Their daggers are subconsciously thrust in all directions. To be a man is to enter the wasteland itself for vast periods of time. The elements are merciless and the skin must be hardened into a chitin shell. A man swallows sewer water laden with heavy metal and diseased ash every time he faces 1 million micro-rejections a day, processing it into nutrients and shitting out defensive spite. A man experiences varying degrees of turbulence, learning that fairness is the false promise delivered by those who have no stake or familiarity with the great game that dictates the flow of life itself. He is exposed to new thresholds of psychological pain throughout his entire life, without recourse, only hardening himself to numbness. Men learn very quickly what it means to be inherently worthless in a vacuum. Women are incapable of this feeling because they have inherent value by nature of being a woman. A woman without prospects or personality can still garner attention any moment she wishes, should she choose to give up her sacred stockpile of discretion. Men sometimes overlook that doing so isn't easy, trivial, or healthy for women to do. But women overlook that despite the debasing nature of acting out of desperation, they still have the option. It's an emergency escape button that men will never get to have. A woman who becomes desperate simply transforms into a pick-me or a whore. A man who becomes desperate can either become a rapist or die alone, neither of which are viable options to the sentient. Men burn their ships at landing the moment they are born. They are forced to contend with the inescapable truth that they are worth nothing except for what they can accomplish, conquer, steal, or cobble together for themselves. Men are inherently expendable, and except for a few fortunate himbos who are set for life, they know it. The uninitiated and the emphatic will scoff at these descriptions like a dramatization of the mundane. Plump, dismissive wives summoning imaginary gotchas about men being wimps when they get sick. Indignant latte slurping office drones claiming their own struggles diminish the possibility of others experiencing turmoil. Clueless college princesses and sallow waitresses, single mothers and father-hating molestation victims, exhausted postpartum birth pain and period cramps, crying in the mirror, stressing out over makeup, expectations, implications, confusions, judgment, shame, insecurity, rejection, all of the follies of female existence, summoned like an army of stone golems, standing against the exigent threat of feeling empathy for the primordial enemy. I make no claim that women don't have their own burdens, but as this crying female-to-male troon and so many other fringe experiments have demonstrated, women are absolutely obliterated when exposed to 1% of the male experience. We are the anglerfish who occupy the crushing depths and total darkness of the deepest parts of the ocean, surviving, withstanding, persisting. What's most disturbing is that after enough growth, men grow a taste for loneliness. Eventually, they crave it like a rare salt in a barren crag, siphoning whatever moments of peaceful nothingness they can find amongst the tumultuous humdrum of family and work life. We seek solitude when we have adjusted too comfortably to companionship. When a man gets a momentary break from his family, gets left by his girlfriend, or takes a lone trip away from home, he feels a spark of electricity in the pit of his core. He feels the wind on his skin and an animalistic reprieve from a weight he did not fully understand he was carrying. He says to himself, "I'm alone. I'm alive." The feeling is alien, because to be alone is to die. Banishment was one of the most horrific things a Paleolithic could experience, certain, slow, miserable death. And yet, we covet the truly lone man as the ultimate heroic archetype, free from adhering to the will of anyone, beholden only to himself in the merciless wild. We fantasize about endless deserts, rock wastelands, Arctic tundra, empty cities stretching for millions of miles to climb through for an eternity. We dream of being shoved into gray metal crevices in the underbellies of forgotten starships, drifting into the space between galaxies as time rips past comprehension, separating us from everything that was ever human, by millions of light years and thousands of centuries. Young men will create fantasies of dying in war from movies they've watched and stories they've read. Old men who have known war will denounce these ideations while forever harboring their experiences as the most defining moment of their lives. A mother looks into the eyes of her children and feels boundless love and supernatural affinity for them in a way she's never felt about anything before. A son looks into his father's eyes and sees a strange, faintly glimmering stare he cannot fully comprehend, feeling it means something, but he cannot read what it says. The father's stare is the future, a long path of sweat, blood, pain, and triumph, waiting to swing itself into his son's chest like a sledgehammer. His son will know total desolation. The taste of blood in his mouth from a freshly struck nose. The torment of 1,000 paper-thin nagging bureaucrats crushing him for the sin of existing throughout his entire education. The government who robs him of his hard-earned bounty in exchange for trying to recruit him into dying wastefully for the interests of parasites. The reckless, hateful cruelty of a scorned love, half wanton from a clueless girl, half inflicted on himself by unchecked projections. The sinking emptiness of wasted sloth compiling around to suffocate him in shame, like a shrine of unsorted refuse in a smelly, bare room. The stale hours in the dead of early morning, in a parking lot of a gas station, triggering the hairs on the back of his head like an antelope hearing a twig crunch. The looming dread of responsibility, failure, evaporating bloodline, and decaying society all swirling into a gargantuan tempest, blocking out the sun and enshrouding him into total hopeless darkness until he learns to wield his anger so brutally that he self-immolates into a dense burning star to carve out his own path. The promise of freedom, dangling on the periphery of his vision as he claws his way out from under the ruins. The father sees a river of blood far beyond the horizon, waiting for his son to drown in. He knows there is nothing he can do except teach him to swim, like his father taught him, and like his father's father taught him, and so on, and so on, and so on. The father looks into his son's eyes and knows that one day he will die. He has thought about death every single day of his life in some way or another. He knows that there will come a day where he is turned to dust, and until then he must give his son everything he can to survive this world as he survived. He knows that it will crush his son beyond comprehension and become a life-defining scar for him to hide from loved ones like all the others. This is the way of man. Death is what it means to be a man. The strongest and hardest of men face true death. The average still know death as a shadow inflicting its essence onto the mundane actions of day-to-day life. The weakest of men hide from death, perfuming it and painting pretty colors on its face while distracting themselves with idleness and consumption. But all men know death, whether they understand it or not. Woman's inherent purpose is to bring life to this earth. Man's inherent purpose is to take it away. These are the roles we have occupied throughout the entirety of existence: the gatherer and the hunter. Attempting to cross the sacred biological line brings suicidal misery to those who attempt it. Beyond the obvious signs, such as overly trimmed eyebrows and androgynous soft round faces, female to males reveal themselves through displays of tears and torment when they get a true glimpse of being a man. It's an exceptionally cruel thing to do to yourself, playing life on hard mode, and you don't even have the controller to move properly. Entering the gladiator's arena with no weapon to defend yourself and no crowd to cheer, even if you somehow win. No amount of tasteful Ed Hardy font tattoos and pullover hoodies will protect your soft, untempered body and fragile attention-driven psychology from the challenges men don't even consciously realize exist. You are alone in the wasteland, and you are going to die very quickly from exposure, and we will pick your carcass clean for bone marrow. That nigger can write. Scorched Earth Policy on Twitter. One of the top comments is, I too am here to tell you to be more concise. And he said, no. Someone said, get to the point, and then posted a paragraph summarizing it. And he said, thanks for pasting my writing into Grok for me. I really needed the help. Oh, man. We were born to be killed, and we're descended from those who refuse to die. Wow. Very, very good. Yeah, that's what I was thinking as I was reading it. Cormac McCarthy novel. That's how it felt reading it. Like I had a Cormac McCarthy setting playing out in my head as it was as I was reading it. Like the desolate wasteland. This morning Amy had a doctor's appointment she had to go to, and I was entertaining Eastwood, and we started watching Outdoor Boys. We were watching him left on an Alaskan island, remote Alaskan island, and he has to go hike across the island to where there's a dead walrus on the beach, and then he has to hack the head off of the walrus because he wants to get the skull. He wants to get the skull and the tusks. And so he gets dropped off in a seaplane, grabs his backpack, and he has a sled behind him. And he just drags this sled as he hikes 2+ miles to where it is. Then he gets himself in a whole Tyvek suit with gloves and puts earplugs up his nose and proceeds. He has a brand new, fully sharpened axe, and it takes him 15 swings of the axe to even begin to pierce the hide. So he ultimately decapitates this walrus and then carves off all the flesh off of it, wraps it in plastic bags, puts it on this sled. It's 50 pounds. He carves 40 pounds of flesh off of it. It's 50 pounds. And he just trudges his way all the way back 2 miles with fresh bear tracks everywhere, wolf tracks around. He's just walking down the beach off on the coast of the Bering Sea somewhere. And he hikes his way all the way back there, sets up a tub, a big 50-gallon barrel, and starts a fire and puts the walrus head in there and boils it and stays in a tent a little ways away so he can boil off all the fat and everything. It's he talks about being bear bait. Yeah, he's like a big pile of bear shit, and he's like, the goal is to not wind up looking like that. The dude's like a corporate attorney or something. He is peak dad. He is one dad mode. He has defeated every boss on dad mode. He's incredible. Yes, I like how this sucks. Summarizes the male experience. I'm sitting there watching it. I'm like sick laying here. I'm just like, I want to die. And I'm just getting energy watching him trudging around through the abandoned wilderness, looking out across the Arctic tundra and hacking us up, looking over his shoulder, looking for bears and everything. I'm just like, oh. And Eastwood is just like enraptured. The thing you wanted to look at before that was we watched some videos on Yellowstone as a super volcano, and what would it look like if Yellowstone blew up? What would be the consequences? We watched some videos of Mount St. Helens, and we did that for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then I think he was starting to get a little scared. He was a little kind of like, okay, that's a lot to take in for a 5-year-old. And so I said, what if we watched some Outdoor Boys instead? So we watched like Nerf gun fights, and then got into the walrus head harvesting. Oh, it just it reminds me of I spent a lot of time camping and hiking and skiing, and a lot of time in the outdoors, canoeing, fishing. I did a lot of that throughout my teens and into my early 20s, and haven't done it nearly as much since. And I have that call of the wild is still very strong, though perhaps not strong enough. All right. Now, there's an article that I've had sitting here waiting to read for a little while now, written by Rod Dreher. He wrote this about almost coming up on 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. It's great that so many on the right are rising up against groiperism and Jew hatred, but if we don't provide real answers to the serious concerns the alienated young men drawn to live by these lies have, our opposition will go nowhere. So the title of the Substack was Reaching Weimar America's Lost Boys, and Can Dems and the GOP Save Themselves? Arctic Frost and Leah Labresco Sargent. The reason I've been wanting to read it is because I happen to know that Rod Dreher and J.D. Vance are close. So Fraud Gayer, Rod Gayer, Cole Gayer. Yes. He has been supplying the internet with coal for a while now. He has some good thoughts, good insights. He seems sincere, but he's also just very out of touch. Let's say seems to be a good man. But, I don't see him in the same light that I see, say, David French. I think that he's more sincere. And some of that could be retroactively, like I respect and like JD, and JD is friends with him, so it's like I'm kind of trading on JD's reputation a little bit when I still have a little bit of affection for Rod Dreher. But I find Charles Haywood calls him the odious Rod Dreher, which cracks me up. But the fact that he is friends with JD, I think it's worth monitoring his perspective. So I haven't gotten to reading that yet. However, Mr. Dave Green, the distributist, wrote a response to him. So we're going to do this backwards. I'm going to read the Rod Dreher piece on another episode, maybe tomorrow. I've also got an interesting one, Peter Thiel talking about Zoran Mamdani that I'm trying to get to, but I need to get myself feeling better. So this, we're going to read the Dave Green one here today. I've read part of it, and I had a number of people send it to me and say, this is good. This is Labe worthy. So I'm going to read through the rest of it, read through all of it here today, and that'll set us up for reading the Dreyer one on a future episode. So this is Letters from Fiddler's Green. This is Dave's Substack. How Conservatism Died. An open letter to Rod Dreyer. Sometimes one needs to be direct. Dear Mr. Dreyer, or can I call you Rod? I'm fairly certain that I called you Rod in our conversation earlier this year. Link is here if you want to go watch that. Either way, I feel it necessary to reach out again to express something directly, in a way that only the written word can convey. And open letters seem to be in vogue this time of year. You see, talking to conservatives in the fall of 2025, only bluntness feels appropriate. I'm not trying to be unnecessarily confrontational with this letter. I'm not trying to pull a dunk, as the Zoomers might say. I don't want to drag you down. But I need to communicate something essential to you and others like you. Specifically, I need to tell you that it's time to stop. It's time to put away this charade. It's time to drop the act. What act, you might ask? Well, the Conservative Act, of course. Because, like it or not, no one is buying this shtick anymore. Perhaps you don't consider yourself a conservative. I've noticed that recently, many in center-right circles have internalized the neo-reactionary observation that there is nothing left to conserve in the modern world. There even seems to be a growing understanding that the post-war Buckleyite project was a failure, and that appealing to mainstream institutions by calling out their hypocrisy is a delusional approach to politics. The analysis sounds sober enough in the abstract, yet the conservative delusions persist unchanged. In recent weeks, these conservative delusions have been very much on display in the wake of an interview between Tucker Carlson and infamous internet provocateur Nicholas J. Fuentes. I watched the conversation and found it boring enough. It's not particularly spicy content, especially for YouTube. Nevertheless, the apoplexy erupting from the institutional conservative movement was nothing short of apocalyptic. One would think there had been no greater atrocity in the last decade than the evil wrought by one former TV show host talking publicly with one internet edgelord. Naturally, there were usual justifications for the hysteria repeated by you and many others. Nick Fuentes is a racist! He's a Nazi! He's a deplorable anti-Semite! He needs to be kept out of polite society! The interview published by Tucker is outrageous, and there needs to be immediate consequences! The histrionics were then typically followed by overwrought moralism extracted from oblique references to post-World War II political propaganda, the more obscure the better, and then followed by a call to do everything necessary to guard our sacred institutions against insidious Nazi infiltration. The routine reads well enough, especially when written by a talented writer like you, Rod. There's only one problem. The story has absolutely no connection to the reality that we live in. It's bullshit. And this hysterical bullshit goes to the heart of the enormous mountain of bullshit modern conservatives have been feeding to young people for decades. Perhaps we could begin by examining the relationship conservatives believe they have with these mainstream institutions they are eager to protect. Sure, I can understand how one wouldn't want a society's sober and respected institution polluted by the unhinged ideas of the extreme right. Conservatives, true to their name, should always be on guard against radicalism. But wait just a moment. Haven't you conservatives been telling us that these same institutions have already been not just infiltrated but captured by the radical left? Haven't you explained at length that these legacy seats of power are lost and no longer represent any notion of Christian normalcy? Haven't you told conservative youths that they must seek a separate peace outside of the mainstream order that hates them? If that's the case, why are you calling on young conservatives to defend that same mainstream order against Nick Fuentes, a man impugned as a pariah with the same labels progressives reserve for all right-wingers, conservative or otherwise? Honestly, Rod, I don't understand what you want right-wingers' relationship with modern society to be. Are we its guardians or its exiles? And why should it be such a priority for us to protect something that we are otherwise excluded from? After all, it's not like modern America isn't full to the brim with radicalism and identity politics, at least the kind that is hostile to white men. And volunteering to be the hall monitor against political extremism in 2025 feels like trying to close the barn door long after the horse has bolted. Often, Rod, I hear conservatives like you defending the prospect of gatekeeping as some principled stand against radicalism across the board. We need to oppose extremism on both sides. Both communism and fascism are dangers to our sacred republic and the American tradition. Yes, that's a fine sentiment in the abstract. But long experience has taught me to doubt the earnestness of this principled stand. As you well know, Rod, both mainstream journalism and academia have been riddled with radical leftists for more than half a century, most of them directly or indirectly associated with Marxism, the most bloodthirsty form of totalitarianism in human history. So granted the absolute state of your alma mater in the world of prestige media, how do you deal with the leftist radicals that you encounter there? What form does your opposition take? Do you attempt to get left-wingers fired from their jobs? Do you campaign to have them deplatformed and otherwise excluded from social media? Put on no-fly lists or otherwise censored? Do you support the blacklist against communists, like you apparently do for Groypers? Do you refuse to interview radical leftists yourself? Of course not. Doing anything like that to communists or Marxists would be McCarthyist, which is very unconservative. So naturally, the only acceptable opposition to radicals from the left is polite collegiate discourse and calm argumentation. Sure, the lefties are wrong, and they might even believe in dangerous radical ideas. However, society has a responsibility to foster open public discourse, and Marxists have a right to be heard in public, as well as to be published and interviewed by reputable media outlets. America is a free country, after all, and even extremists have a right to have their opinions heard publicly. Case in point, just a few weeks ago, almost every prestigious media establishment was running puff pieces on dirtbag leftist Hassan Piker, an extreme figure on the left who frequently flirts with violent rhetoric in the form of jokes. Hassan even scored an interview with conservative New York Times journalist Ross Douthat, and with minimal outrage coming either from the New York Times or the conservative movement itself. Of course, conservatives assured us that this was all well and good. The press needs to platform radicals to challenge them. That's just how discourse works in an open society. But why doesn't this right to public discourse apply to the interview between Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes? I can probably anticipate your response. Nick Fuentes is a real Nazi. Nick Fuentes is a genuine extremist, much more so than all those radical Marxists and Communist Party members who were gainfully employed in academia and journalism, and who conservative pundits have gladly engaged with for the last half-century. I guess there might be a valid argument by degree here. All those other left-wing radicals and communists with whom conservatives engaged in dialogue were just fake extremists. They didn't really mean all those radical things they said. Their revolutionary state ideology was just a revolutionary chic fashion statement, draped over their sincere liberal disposition. However, Nick Fuentes is a different story. Nick is the real deal. Nick is the true extremist. Nick Fuentes is an actual Nazi. Perhaps a sound case for a double standard. There's just one problem. Nick Fuentes is not an actual Nazi. I should admit that I don't particularly like Nick Fuentes, personally speaking. Certainly, Fuentes is a bright man, an excellent orator, and a master debater. His ambition and skill with rhetoric exceed my own. But that being said, Nick is also a supremely immature person. He is unnecessarily cruel and excessively combative. He has difficulty forming professional relationships, and the course of his online career has been marked by a series of broken friendships that he has sabotaged in pursuit of his personal brand. Nick's content is so heavily irony-poisoned that it is hard to discern his sincere beliefs, and he frequently circulates intentionally bad takes to drive his own clout through manufactured controversy. But, that being said, Nick is still not a Nazi. The clips of him praising Hitler are obvious jokes, easily recognizable as such by the most boomer-brained viewer. Furthermore, even if Nick did believe that Hitler or Stalin had gotten a bad rap, that didn't take into account the context of their crimes. Such heterodoxy still would not make him a National Socialist in any meaningful way. In fact, I should probably point out the obvious fact that there is no real National Socialist movement in America today. With incredibly rare exceptions, no one is unironically brandishing swastikas the way that people have confidently presented communist paraphernalia since the early 1970s. There are no Nazi politicians winning elections the way Marxists often do. And the populism and reactionary political movements that have emerged in the wake of the Trump presidency are only Nazi to the extent that one labels all political ideas popular before 1946 as Nazi, as most progressives do. But for conservatives, maybe excluding older ideas is the whole point. Nazi just being a general stand-in for pre-modern political understanding of society. I often get the sense that many so-called conservatives would like to exclude all ideals that predate the specific period in time that they want to conserve. Indeed, it is hard to forget that many in the well-to-do center-right even considered neo-reactionary ideas beyond the pale. That was, of course, until Tucker Carlson took a risk and interviewed the famous Mencius Moldbug. Now, 3 years later, Curtis Yarvin is a regular speaker in conservative circles, and the discourse is much the better for it. At least it's less boring. But couldn't the same be true for Nick Fuentes? Perhaps the key problem with Nick is one of propriety. Those Marxist radicals that conservative platformed in the past were very civil, and many other right-wing highbrows such as Yarvin or Lomez possess the same general collegiate temperament. By contrast, Nick Fuentes is a very nasty person. On this point, Rod, there is some agreement between you and me. Nick is not a nice person. He isn't a team player, and his Groyper fans are easily among the most irritating online communities operating in 2025. Despite his talents, I'm not fond of Fuentes' behavior as a political leader, and I think that young alienated men deserve something better than to be recruited into the world's most obnoxious troll army in support of a hot-headed political streamer who has difficulty managing his optics. But before I join you in hand-wringing over the scourge of online radical trolls, there's just one problem we need to discuss, Rod. Because, despite how much you might hate Nicholas J. Fuentes, you created him. You made the Groypers necessary. And until we address the problems with the conservative message, the pathologies of these young men will, in some sense, be inevitable. Your decisions led us to this place, and the Groypers are hardly the worst of what's coming. To illustrate the central problem, maybe we can start with this very simple political fact. Legitimate political grievances, especially those of young men, will either be integrated into your political formula or used by your enemies against you. I'm going to read that one more time. Legitimate political grievances, especially those of young men, will either be integrated into your political formula or used by your enemies against you. Almost all serious political thinkers throughout history have understood this dimension of politics, from Machiavelli to Sun Tzu. However, in the modern social media era, its most popular iteration is found in the apocryphal African proverb, "The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth." I know you understand this wisdom, Rod. I know you have written as much in many of your articles. But given that we both understand the imperative to address young men's grievances, what solutions are you and your fellow conservatives proposing? Where should the lost sons of the West be directed? What is the alternative to Nick Fuentes? After all, despite what some of your recent essays imply, the Groypers aren't demons, Rod. They aren't cartoon villains who just want to see the world burn. These are kids who want a future and can see all the manifest ways that the deck has been stacked against them. They understand that they've been locked out of a middle-class life and societal respect, both individually and collectively, and they want some solution to their problems that might give them hope. I suppose, hypothetically, if you considered these men's objections as entirely illegitimate, you might propose that society suppress these malcontents with brutal censorship and naked police force, the way many other countries have handled dissent in the modern world. However, I don't think you'd commend such actions, not least because you have, in your past writing, acknowledged that many of the problems the Groypers complain about are valid. Telling people that their grievances are legitimate and then sicking the police on them when they try to do something about it is a dick move in most people's books, so I imagine this can't be what you have in mind. But, Rod, if outright suppression is off the table, what other solutions are we offering these young men? But wait, just a moment here. Before you respond with the standard conservative line, I need to provide some caveats to my question. When I ask for solutions for men, I'm asking for real solutions, not fantasies. I'm not talking about cute just so stories where a young man can get a job by walking into a bank and giving the manager a firm handshake, or find a virtuous woman to marry at the local gas station. I'm not interested in unrealistic Pollyanna-ish quick fixes that claim a 24-year-old might afford a down payment for a house by canceling his Netflix subscription, find a community by walking into a local geriatric church, or reconnect with tradition by contributing to an out-of-town hobby farm run by a bunch of comfortable boomer professionals. Furthermore, I am tired of hearing romanticized Shagbark Hickman pipe dreams about impoverished rural existence, obviously lifted from Jack Kerouac, Thomas Merton, or some random Hallmark special. I'm not going to tell a 20-year-old student that sleeping in a graveyard and eating out of a dumpster is a reasonable path to a financially stable future. I'm not going to inform debt-ridden college graduates that their best prospect is working at Panda Express. I have no interest in instructing disillusioned young professionals that their lives would be more fulfilled by quitting their jobs and buying a shack in a depressed backwater to restore community to a town that died before they were born. Moreover, the solution for an entire cohort of alienated young men can't be to flee from modernity by joining some far-off monastic religious community. Not that you would ever recommend something like that, Rod. The Benedict solution, those who know. In all cases, these solutions are not real solutions. Nevertheless, some variation of these ideas inevitably emanates from the conservative side of the internet every time the question of young men's alienation becomes the subject of discussion. To say they are disconnected would be a massive understatement. In fact, these suggestions are borderline insults, all the more cutting when they are juxtaposed against the lives of the older conservative men who routinely offer them to young people, posted between pictures of them buying new boats and dining at fancy European restaurants. To be fair to conservatives, I understand that their advice is somewhat facetious and designed to illustrate the can-do spirit they wish young men would adopt. There are flakes of truth floating in the sea of boomer bullshit. Poverty, rough living, and monastic chastity might be part of the total solution for young people. Still, it doesn't seem like too much to ask that the answers conservatives provide to young people's questions reflect the seriousness with which they were asked. When instructing the young, we older folks have the responsibility to be practical and think deeply about what it would take to make our proposals work in the real world. For instance, a young man might forge a meaningful proletarian existence for himself if, somehow, he could locate an identity that gives him pride, self-respect, and the opportunity to form a family. It's also possible to revitalize dying rural communities if a highly ambitious group of young families could collectively organize and coordinate to take bold and radical risks in the name of a shared purpose. Furthermore, young men might find the religious life appealing if they were supported by a church of confident Christians who manifestly made sacrifices for their faith. And even the ordinary standard white-collar path might yet be made tolerable if the young men slogging through the dregs of corporate America knew that they represented something larger than themselves and were part of a political project that fought for their future and others like them. But notice here that none of the conservatives' favorite solutions for young men work without a broader community, along with a sense of identity and purpose that supports their life project. Young men need to be told clearly who they are and what their mission is from the older men among them. This was the heritage that the conservative movement was supposed to provide the young people of our time. Those who represented themselves as the guardians of the Western tradition were supposed to convey a thick collective identity and an attendant sense of political purpose to those youths whose hearts burned with passion. For the most part, conservatives failed in this task. As such, their proposals can never be taken seriously. Am I being unfair with this assessment, Rod? If so, I will put the question to you once more directly, in case there is a better answer that I just haven't heard yet. What identity do conservatives like you provide to young white men? What sense of collective purpose do they endorse that offers such youth an avenue for their passion without weighing them down in endless guilt and useless introspection? These are not trivial questions, Rod, especially for modern conservatives whose understanding of nationalism consists of passport paperwork, GDP contributions, and loyalty to obsolete 18th century political documents, and whose approach to religion consists of telling young men to be winsome, meek, and not rock the boat politically until enlightenment comes to them sometime in middle age. That kind of minimalist identity might have worked well for older generations who slid through their 20s with marriage and professional success well within their grasp. But for young men now, wandering through the wastelands of economic and cultural despair, the conservative gruel is thin indeed, and no amount of hand-wringing over the sorry state of things is going to stop them from resenting the people who feed it to them day in and day out. Men want a way to live life ardently and vigorously. They want to possess confidence and purpose, hopefully steering clear of spiritual pride and narcissism. Moreover, while Christians should be somewhat wary of worldly ambition and the overconfidence of youth, in our own age, the reciprocal sin of inertness and fear is far more pressing, and the boy who lacks all ardor will perish in despondency before he even gets a chance to love life too deeply. Young men know instinctively that unless they love who they are, individually, politically, and collectively, they will never succeed at anything, much less find a wife, a family, or a respected position in society. Furthermore, without an internal sense of collective worth and a feeling that one has a responsibility to protect the dignity of that collective, people cannot engage in politics effectively, a fact that has become all too obvious in the last 20 years. But if we have learned this lesson about the collective nature in politics, do conservatives have a positive group identity to offer young white men in 2025, Rod? Is the answer just that idealistic conservative bromide about how identity politics are bad for everyone? Yes, we all know principled conservatives reject identity based on race or religious nationalism in theory. But watch those conservatives for any length of time, and you will see that these principles are transparent bullshit, demonstrated no more clearly than in their rabid defense of Israel's wars, Zionism, and Jewish ethnic pride. After all, despite what the propaganda says, the Zionist project is a prime example of racial and religious nationalism, if there ever was one. What makes the Jewish case so different? Why do conservatives, who otherwise condemn collective identity politics, so comfortably celebrate it when it comes to Zionism and the Jewish identity more broadly? Why do conservatives attribute any number of positive qualities to Jews collectively, but consider any discussion of their negative attributes a special thought crime called anti-Semitism? Is the answer simply that conservatives believe collective guilt is always wrong for any group? But I'm not sure I believe that either. I frequently hear conservative commentators, like you, Rod, talk about World War II and American slavery in a way that implies the collective guilt of Germans and Southern whites. Yet when you discuss any other protected minority groups, all questions of culpability are redirected toward the individual actors or explained away as a product of white Gentile villainy. The double standard even goes to ridiculous lengths, where the decisions of Jews to enter lucrative unethical professions or undertake violent nationalist projects are ultimately attributed to the villainy of white Gentile oppressors. It seems that, when conservatives examine the question of historic crimes, neither Jews nor any other minority group has agency, individually or collectively. The notion of collective culpability is only properly applicable to peoples who are both white and Christian. And despite the fact that conservatives oppose collective guilt in concept, they still think that modern white Gentiles have a responsibility to rectify the wrongdoings of their ancestors. You see, sometimes collective guilt is a myth. Other times, it's a reality. Sometimes group identity is a noble political endeavor. Other times, its existence is inexcusable bigotry. Conservatives are aware of the double standard when it occurs on the left, but somehow they still participate in the same pattern. Once more, conservatives' problems stem from a disconnect between theory and practice. In theory, conservatives understand how selective attribution of agency works between whites and other protected classes. In the abstract, they condemn the concept of collective guilt and the notion of group identity. But in practice, it is easy to see which groups conservatives believe have a legitimate collective identity and which groups do not. Just think, Rod, of all the unhinged outrages that have erupted in conservative circles when young white men have made gestures toward race consciousness or a political identity for ethnic white Americans. Would such outrage be foisted on any other group of young people for expressing similar feelings? Would conservatives like you condemn traditional Cambodian Americans for expressing pride in their ethnic heritage and a desire to preserve their group's existence into the future? Would Christian leaders call out a group of African American parishioners who believed that they had a special duty to protect the political interests of the black community in America? To ask the question is to answer it. Conservatives would never treat other ethnic identities the way they treat white Gentile ethnic identities, not because they consider the two different in theory, but because they wouldn't dare to behave that way in practice. But that's the problem, Rod. Even if the conservative double standard exists only in exceptions, eventually the small hypocrisies began to tell a story about how things work. The knife only cuts one way, and it consistently cuts against the collective interests of young, alienated white men. Is it any wonder that these young white men are looking for a way to strike out and wave the middle finger at the current state of affairs? After all, this group has been the object of a slew of attacks against their race and sex across their entire education, only to see the conservative crowd shrink back and endorse a winsome and impotent stance of neutrality towards identity politics. Young men need something more than platitudes about how things ought to be otherwise, and invocations about how they should never answer anti-white aggression in turn. Frankly, I find this problem most striking among Christian conservatives in particular, who seem quite comfortable commending an attitude of pacifism to young men on the receiving end of hostile anti-white personal attacks. Sure, young men, the world is evil and hostile to your interests, but isn't the best response to pull inward and turn the other cheek, not letting those other evildoers draw you into a war on their terms? Once more, in the abstract, this teaching is correct. Spiritual serenity is perhaps the most potent thing that men can cultivate within themselves, and great masters have been able to use conditional acquiescence to significant effect, winning victories both politically and spiritually. However, sitting down passively in the face of attacks against one's dignity is a deeply unnatural way for a young man to behave. And teachers often forget that before obtaining the mastery of spiritual stoicism, a man must first have an internal sense of self-worth, which very few young men have been given in the modern world. As such, most standard Christian advice seems out of touch, directed more at an ideal situation rather than the real-world problems young people face every day. Furthermore, when I see conservative leaders' nonchalant acceptance of their in-group's denigration, I feel like I'm seeing an example of easy, gamed virtue. Like the politician patting himself on the back for reducing divorce when declining marriage rates are the cause of the reduction, or a morbidly obese person who dismisses the consequences of his weight gain because bodybuilders have high BMI too. The achievement of inward emotional resilience is being faked through confusion with rank apathy. Yes, certain spiritual masters comfortably sustain verbal attacks against their group's dignity without blinking an eye because they've developed inner peace. But cowards and weaklings do the same easily because they just don't care. I remember how it worked well enough in high school. My jock friends always got defensive when the discussions of white privilege and patriarchy entered the conversation. At the same time, nerds who orbited around the feminist girls never seemed to care at all. According to the male feminist nerds, this was because the jocks were deeply insecure. But this is the opposite of what I saw in ordinary life, where the jocks were better put together emotionally than their counterparts in almost all other circumstances. Indeed, a more straightforward explanation was obvious. The jocks were offended by anti-white and anti-male tirades because they recognized them as genuine attacks of their identity. Meanwhile, the male feminists understood that these critiques didn't apply to them or anything else they valued, so they were otherwise unfazed. This state of affairs is probably the reason that, throughout most Christian history, virtuous men were expected to stand up and fight back against people who attempted to denigrate their groups, physically or reputationally. In some sense, this was a core Christian responsibility of all men. Is it really so surprising now that young men want to assert their identities in very much the same terms that they were attacked? Is it any wonder that they want to proclaim a certain pride in their maleness and even, shock, their whiteness? Although, Rod, I imagine you would provide the natural conservative critique to this proposition. Racial identity is hollow. It doesn't address the core spiritual issues of our age. Furthermore, whiteness is a modern construction largely separated from traditional ethnic identities that have deeper roots. Therefore, how can race be any basis for giving young men, even young white men, an identity in the modern world? Perhaps here we can share some common ground, Rod. Whiteness is indeed a 20th century construction. Insofar as it is synonymous with Caucasian, the term is a broad taxonomic classification developed from a bird's-eye view of human anthropological development over millennia. It's not an organic ethnic identity, nor does it possess a historical tradition that could provide a foundation for meaning in a meaningless age. Contra Jared Taylor, whiteness alone cannot provide a sense of religious purpose, and for this reason, among many others, I do not consider myself a white nationalist. However, whiteness is a valid categorical term, and, like it or not, whiteness is the broad label through which the progressive establishment attacks many other authentic ethnic traditions, denigrating their members, deconstructing their identity, and consigning them to demographic replacement. The pattern of hostility expressed towards the label white is manifest to almost every young person born in the last 30 years. While we might not prefer to use this label ourselves, we need to be comfortable in dialogue with people who do. And this more open attitude towards racial identity needs to be the first step towards a more realistic and non-hysterical approach to modern group politics generally, something almost all public conservatives have failed to do up to this point. While it may offend our 20th century sensitivities, certain truths need to be faced head on. Race is a reality. Different groups identify and understand themselves in different ways. They exhibit different behaviors, they express different political priorities, and they achieve at different levels. And regardless of the ultimate source of these differences, it is quite clear that they cannot be undone within any time frame that modern nations would consider relevant. The extent to which this situation implies the need for alternative forms of government or separate living situations inside ethnically mixed countries is an open question. However, at some level, we must engage with these facts, along with the other realities of group politics, even if these sordid truths make us feel uncomfortable. And if you're looking for some reason why conservatives have failed at their attempts to connect to youth, or the reason for Nick Fuentes' continued popularity, look no further than conservatives' manifest inability to deal with uncomfortable truths. Every time there is a reality that's difficult to process or that cuts against your comforting understanding of the world, you shrink away from it, retreat from all challenges, and withdraw into smaller and smaller spaces, never taking a stand on any principle unless it involves punishing your own friends for violating your enemy's rules. And all the while, you make sure to broadcast your own dispossession and defeat in the loudest, most melodramatic way possible, to the maximum entertainment of the people who hate you. This is not the role for serious political leaders. This is the role for clowns. Every time men under the age of 40 witness this pattern, they naturally want to do everything in their power to move in the opposite direction, which brings them to men like Nick Fuentes. At least he asserts himself. At least he faces the problems of the age head on when no one else does. At least he acts like he has a backbone and commands the respect of even his enemies. Once more, I will say the obvious. You conservatives made Nick Fuentes the groypers necessary. And that's a problem because, despite it all, I think the young people deserve better than Nick Fuentes. Younger men need older men, like us, Rod, who are willing to struggle with them, to make their cause our own. They need a connection to a tradition and wise counsel from others who have gone before them. They need sober analysis that prioritizes what matters, as well as insightful thinkers who provide clarity amid the noisy distractions that drive algorithms and news cycles. Young men need leaders. Sure, many of the conversations that happen from this point forward might be a little scary. They're going to incorporate many ideas from before the 20th century that everyone thought were outdated. They will touch on a lot of taboo topics that other people have labeled mean, racist, or exclusionary. And these new conversations won't be conducted under the rules of liberal propriety, not because we want to be edgy, but because in 2025, essential truths lie outside of the Overton window, and we owe more to the truth than to being polite. And personally, Rod, I think you could make some valuable contributions to this conversation. However, regardless of your participation, one more thing needs to be made absolutely clear at this stage. You are not going to gatekeep the right wing. You aren't going to veto the discussion of reality by pearl clutching and making appeals to being reasonable. You aren't going to restore the risk-averse conservatism of National Review by telling century-old horror stories about the ascendancy of Adolf Hitler. You aren't going to shut out critical conversations because you think their conclusions are distasteful. The time when mainstream conservatism held this kind of power is over. And you will never have it, ever again. Which is why you and other conservatives need to abandon the pretension and stop trying to pursue this futile task for your good and the good of others that come after you. Is it possible for conservatives to finally break from the form that has defined their own failure? Might you all stop quixotically raging against the sky and try to adopt a more practical approach? I know that many of you are fond of that one saying by William F. Buckley that a conservative is someone who stands athwart the tracks of history, yelling, "Stop!" No doubt many conservatives find a certain nobility in these futile gestures, especially as America's political reality grows much darker. However, that train you now see coming down the tracks isn't the crisis of modernity, nor is it some specific bad actor like Nick Fuentes or even some popular mass delusion. The train is just reality. It is the inevitable consequence of the politics promoted over the last 3 decades by those weak men too cowed to face hard truths head on. And no one can stop this train from coming because all the opportunities to slow it down have been sabotaged, more often than not, by the very conservatives who were busy lamenting the sorry state of their predicament. But lament your predicament or not, the train is still approaching. You are all going to have to make an adjustment to how you approach politics, or the juggernaut will run you down where you stand, not because you stood on some principle, but because you didn't acknowledge the machine hurling towards you just in front of your nose. But perhaps this is history's well-known sense of irony, because in the wake of this tragedy, everyone will naturally look back at your careers and wonder, how? How? After everything? After all of the articles, after all of the books, after all of the histrionic predictions of collapse and societal decline, repeated over and over again, how could you still be so unprepared to face the world that you saw coming decades ago? It is an eternal mystery. It is the story of how conservatism died. What a banger. God bless Dave Green, man.
Here comes the money.
Here we go.
Hail victory!
Here comes the money.
Alpha male alert!
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar. Ching, ching, bling, bling, got the chatter. You ain't talking money, then you're talking no matter.
Please play an Erica for my young white men.
You got it, Hail Victory. You patriot.
Auf der Heide blüht ein kleines Blümelein. Und das heißt Erika.
You got to make sure, as a reminder, if you got any new listeners, you got to make sure when you throw up that Roman, you got to throw it up Bellamy style. You know, the Roman would be like flat, thumb tucked. But the Bellamy, this is American heritage. We do it differently here. We throw it up Bellamy style. Thank you, Hail Victory. I appreciate you. I deeply appreciate you. That puts us at 1666 for the month. Uh-oh. That won't do. That will not do. That's all that I had for the show, but I cannot end the show with a 666 up there. That's not tolerable. So I'm going to vamp here until somebody remedies this problem. I've run out of content for what I put together today, but I can give you guys a little sneak preview about some of the next stuff that I have, unless some other great thing shows up all of a sudden. I've got this article, the one that he was responding to from Rod Dreher that I mentioned earlier. I've also got one that I haven't read yet. I've been sitting on for a little bit from, send 110 to make it 1776. Do we have a 110? Double, just perfect. There's layers to that one. 110 to make it 1776. That would be chef's kiss. Tremendous. I've got an article here from Scott Greer that I haven't read yet, but I've been sitting on it. He says, this might be one of my most disturbing columns yet. Good men scarcity, the nation's most pressing problem, is now striking D.C.'s conservative scene. I bravely look into this American tragedy to find out why all the young MAGA women, think even conservative guys aren't good men. He says this alleged problem is more acute among professional conservatives than elsewhere. That's an interesting one that I've been sitting on for a little bit. And then there's the Perry podcast. This is one that I've been waiting to share. Perry Abbasi has started himself a podcast, and it is magnificent. It is so good. I actually need to go see if he's done a third episode yet. I've listened to the first 2 episodes, and it is just ugh. I've been torn. Part of the reason why I've put off talking about this is I've been torn because I don't want to. I don't want to just be the guy that explains the joke. And it's kind of what it is. Like, I'd be the guy who's explaining the joke because there's a joke going on, but it's more than just a joke. Like, there's a thing. There's a deeper thing that's happening. And it just had my mind going off like fireworks when I was listening to it. So I've kind of put off commenting on it just because, like, I don't want to blow a spot. I don't want to blow the man's spot, but he is a brilliant artist, Mr. Perry Abbasi. And the Perry podcast is so good. I mean, here you go. This is episode 1. Here are the chapter titles. Episode 1 is called Alpha Males Run the World. Chapter titles: Taking Down the ADL, Perry's Influence on Elon Musk, Walter Weekends, Perry the Alpha Nostradamus, What Happens After Trump, Nick Fuentes and Old Trump Haters, Perry's Run for Mayor, Master's Degree in Jerking, The Lana Del Rey Lore, Walter Got Deported, The Alpha Male Sex Boycott, Perry and Dave Blunts, Lauren Speaks on Perry's Deaths, Dasha's Direct Line to Trump, Eating Chicken Makes You Gay and Bald, and Perry's Tim Pool Promise. Those are the chapters in a 1-hour episode. And it is magnificent. It is so... it's so good. I just want to like, as someone who's involved in media and all this kind of stuff, like the layers to what Perry is up to are just... The man is a master baiter. He can bait like none other. This is the Perry podcast. Perry Abbasi. It's tremendous. Then I've also got a what I got here. Oh yeah, this article. Oh, I forgot I had this one in here. Peter Thiel. This actually would have been a good tie-in for today, but I know my voice isn't going to go much longer, and I got to get to bed because I got to wake up and hang out with Eastwood. We're going to watch some more Outdoor Boys tomorrow morning because Amy's got another doctor's appointment. So I got to wrap here. Excuse me. But this article about, Peter Thiel. Sean Fisher with the Free Press talked to Peter Thiel about socialism, Mamdani, a broken generational compact, and revolution. Maybe I'll make sure I read that one on tomorrow's ASTROLABE because it ties in very well with what we talked about today. So there's that one. And then on Saturday, So we got a Friday Labe tomorrow. You know what that means. And we're going to have a Saturday Labe this week to make up for missing Monday being in DC. And on Saturday, for the Saturday Labe, we'll be watching the next Pseudowave. The next Pseudowave has been produced week 44 of 208, The Emperor's Club. And it's a little shorter this time. So we'll have a Saturday Labe this week that's dedicated to that. It'll probably be midday, early afternoon, somewhere in there. Okay, let's see. There was nobody's complying here. Tips.kingpill.com. Come on, guys. Don't make me end this on a 666. Please don't put this decision on me. Someone just posted this in the chat. Who was it? I opened it because I want to make sure. Isaac posted this. What is this? I'm trusting you here. I'm trusting you that you're not setting a trap for me. What is this? I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there are high school students making edits about which of their teachers are allowed into Agartha. Oh my God.
She said, you come from a land down under. For women,
what the fuck? Oh, man. Oh, I thought that was going somewhere else.
The N-word.
The Yakubian. Oh, that's great. That's great. The kids are going to be all right, man. Deport homos. Oh, that to me sounds like a patriot. What do we got here? Chilean Ath, USA Reject. Yeah, there's some patriots following. I'm going to follow that. That's fantastic. They censored the Wotan swastika on this one. You got another one?
She said, you come from a land down under.
Mr. George, Noble Agarthan. There's literally only one exception. What's this? I'm getting these in my Instagram gym line now. Oh, hold on. Okay, slow down. Pensbury Music. What was this? Why can't we watch cheese pizza in school? Is that what that's supposed to be? Pensbury music teacher had thousands of cheese pizza images. Levittown, Pennsylvania. With the long nose emoji. Why doesn't school have enough money to pay for new bathrooms? The Pensbury School Board has approved a maximum project cost of nearly $270 million for a new high school and authorized a required public hearing on the plan. Who owns the hallways? APAC. Uh-oh. Why do all the announcements say the same things? Who owns all the high schools? BlackRock. Holy crap. Holy crap. The kids are taking off. Good grief. Oh shit, why didn't it come through?
Here comes the money.
Hail victory again! The absolute patriot!
Dollar, 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 dollar. Ching, ching, bling, bling, got the chatter. You ain't talking money, then your talking don't matter.
Okay, it was my fault anyway. 1776, baby.
Hail victory! 100,000 Patriot points credited to your account immediately. Thank you, my friend. You are an alpha male. You are the honorary alpha male of the Astrolabe chat for the month of November. You will be getting a visit from Perry Abbasi to express my deep gratitude to you. Thank you, man. What a patriot. I am honored. I am honored and humbled by you guys. You are the best. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me again. I apologize for the voice issues. Hopefully they'll be behind me soon. I could start to feel the what do you call it? Dayquil. It's kind of settling into a weird haze, and my body feels all weird and tingly. Not tingly, but just kind of like restless leggy. So I am going to get myself to bed, get myself a little bit of rest, go get some more bone broth, and be back here tomorrow for another episode of the Astrolabe. Go join the King Pill Discord. Go sign up. Go join kingpill.com. Join up. Make sure you download the EWBSX app, EWBSX.com, and also just search for EWBSX on the app stores. Make sure you follow the Cyberbully. More stuff coming soon with that. And follow the Cyberbully on Twitter at EWBSX Cyberbully. And Instagram. Look for us on Instagram as well. There's stuff that's coming. Stuff this we're working. We are flogging, slaving away, beating up the gnomes as much as we can. So join the Discord and go get yourself some merch as well. EWBSX.store. Get yourself a hip hoodie. I almost wore it tonight, but it's too hot up here. Yeah, have a good night, guys. Thanks for hanging with me, and I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, I leave you with Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough, and I said,